Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh, and today I have with me the co-host with the most, Mr. Denham. How are you doing today, sir?
Howdy, howdy. I'm doing all right.
So we're coming in hot off our time at the Adepti-Khan Gaming Convention in Schaumburg, Illinois. That was, a week ago now? What's you shaking your head for?
It's not Illinois. It's just Illinois.
Sorry. I'm allowed to pronounce a third-tier state with as many S's on it as I want to. Fourth tier?
In some ways, I like it better than where I live right now.
Aw, but you don't have me there. Speaking of, before we debrief from 6 days of hot BattleTech on BattleTech action, let's get rumbling on some hobby news, hobby progress, and fan mail that we've missed since we were gone.
We get fan mail when we're not here?
We did get fan mail.
Nice.
So I think the biggest news that everyone was expecting, and we were also expecting, was apparently Catalyst decided to drop a Kickstarter while we were playing 4 days of games at Adepticon.
That's right. It did, in fact, launch.
Yeah. And pretty smoothly, I might add.
It funded in less than 50 seconds.
I don't want to do this. So let me put this out there first. This is not going to be the PhD breakdown on value per model per dollar versus, economic plotting of how to get the most bang for your buck on the Kickstarter. This isn't that episode.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lot more information coming that we'll be able to make a better episode about that in the near future.
Considering in the first day of the Kickstarter launch, I had 15 emails just related to the Kickstarter, as things unlocked. So information is still being received, so nobody really knows. They can change things if they want to and add things as they deem fit.
I was a little bit happy that my temptation to get the full Kerensky was taken away from me because they sold out so quickly that I was not even tempted to throw down that much money, because I would have been tempted.
Just a little tempted?
A lot tempted, yes.
I mean, we don't need to eat, right?
I don't. I really don't. So what did come out that we want to talk about? Because we will talk about the Kickstarter, just not today.
So we're going to skip over all the things, but really there's a few different pledge levels. You got the $15, $35, $80. 80 is where you start getting the new box set stuff, and then 150, 275, where you just essentially get more force packs with that and more swag.
And then the 500 where you get the most swag without being a Kerensky, yeah.
Yeah. And then 5,000 being you get everything and more things than you could ever really need.
Challenge accepted.
But in all that, was there anything that really stood out to you? Something you were super excited about and you're kind of watching like a hawk?
I was very excited to see that they're coming out with a graphic novel. That's I used to have the BattleTech comic books when I was a kid. I think they made a run of 5 of those. That was a lot of fun. So I like things like that. I do like the little things like Sun Tzu's Art of War, as translated by Jamie Wolf. I think that's super cute, and if they do a good job with the packaging on that will look really good on my bookshelf. I like silly little things like that are BattleTech universe related.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why the higher tier things, they have more of the swag type stuff, more of that things, and that's why I gravitate to that, because I can always buy the force packs, from my store whenever I need a mech. I'm like, oh, I need one of those, I'll buy that force pack. But this stuff I can only get during the Kickstarter, so I am kind of their target audience for this sort of thing.
You are their target audience. I saw that meme. It's what Catalyst imagines their ideal audience is like, I have so much money, I don't know what to spend it on. So yeah, that's our target audience right there. Mine, I'm gonna be honest, it's probably the city map pack.
Well, you only get the city map pack for free. I'm putting quotes at there at the 500 level, but you can always put it as an add-on for what was it, $40? I think
35.
Is it 35? Is the Savannah's 30 then?
Savannah's 30.
Okay.
So yeah. So I think the new map packs are the coolest part.
Oh, I'm super excited about those. I am actually super excited about those coming to battle mat form. Get those on some neoprene.
They have them as another add-on.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm excited.
All right. So that's, like I said, that's enough Kickstarter because information's still coming out. We've pledged we're not going to give a recommendation on this episode because, well, that would probably be an entire episode just on cost analysis breakdown, which you could probably get somewhere else faster.
Right. But we don't know what all the pledge levels and things are. So we don't even have we wouldn't be able to accurately portray the cost analysis anyway at this point.
Ah, yes. My favorite part of podcasting, recording something and then by the time it's released, it's already invalid.
Exactly.
Alrighty. So that's enough of the Kickstarter. Let's move on to some stuff we did see at Adepticon that we knew about and some things at Adepticon that we did not know about.
That's right. Like the surprise of a new premium mech, Josh.
Yes. So they had just released the Phoenix Hawk premium miniature like a week before Adepticon, and that one was a standing or kneeling Phoenix Hawk. This surprise model at Adepticon was a rifleman premium miniature.
Well, most of a rifleman.
When you
like
say
70% of a rifleman. Had all the parts. They were just very tiny.
So from what I picked one up and I haven't assembled it yet, but just the pieces size, the scaling is, like you said, about 70% the volume of the plastic Clan Invasion Kickstarter rifleman. Now, I will say you can still get 2 legs per side, so you can do like running or standing, and
right.
The arms are fully posable, so you can have like back arm rotating, or my personal favorite, put magnets in. They're 360 now.
Yeah, I think my favorite joke is to call this one my Alpha Strike rifleman because he can get that partial cover bonus a lot more easily with true 3D terrain.
So what's going on with the sizing on this, though?
Oh, who knows? Like there has been zero official word or unofficial word about what happened there. All I've heard is and that's it. Like we have not heard anything yet, one way or the other.
Do you think this is what's the word I'm looking for? This was just a box of prototypes, and they decided to sell them at Adepticon rather than assemble one and test it and make sure, hey, is this box meet quality standards?
If that's true, it would have been way better for them to just drop it in the swag bags instead of selling them.
Oh, but Catalyst is so good at doing premium miniatures, though, and getting them to us. There are no hiccups at all.
Every premium mech has a story.
Except the Wolfhound 2C. It's the only one that they got right the first time, and it's because it was the first one.
And that's its story.
Beginner's luck.
Yep.
I'm watching you just like, can we move on, please? I don't want to think about this anymore.
You know how I feel about the name premium in these things.
Hey, they used it there on the receipt.
I know. On the packaging, on the receipt.
Yeah. So if these go to retail, I'm going to go with 2-3 weeks from now. Buy or no buy?
If it's the same, no. I mean, I don't want a 70% sized rifleman.
It's very much like a light or very light medium mech version of a rifleman.
Isn't there is a rifleman that's a different weight?
That is the Rifleman 3, which is an assault one.
No, there's a different one. There's just a variant of the Rifleman. There's a variant of the Rifleman that is a different weight than the actual Rifleman. But it is a Rifleman 1. Like it's a Rifleman chassis, but it is in fact lighter.
The Rifleman 1N using primitive is 50 tons.
That's the one. That's the Rifleman 1N is what I'm going to call it.
But it's not marketed as that though.
I don't care. That's I mean it's smaller than the Rifleman, so that's my explanation. This is the 1N.
I mean, that's acceptable, but
no, I wouldn't buy it because it's not the right scale.
Okay.
I mean, I did buy it, but that was before I knew.
Well, I guess I'm going to put it with my next thing that we're going to talk about, my Proliferation Cycle Pack, which I purchased at Adepticon. Because, we've got the Mackie and all the rest of the gang.
I do like those.
Yeah. No problems in that pack, I'll admit.
No, I'm happy with that pack.
In hand, do you have a favorite? Like one that now you can hold in your hand and rotate it?
I mean, I like the new sculpt of the Mackie. I do. I would have to say that is my current favorite because that's one I've looked at the most. That's the one that I've been. I almost painted it, but I'm having second thoughts on my paint scheme. I kind of want to do it like a museum mech, but in like a Lost Tech museum. So it's rusty panels and things like that. I kind of want it to look old and rusty.
I feel like if it was in a museum, though, it'd be like in pristine condition.
Like Lost Tech museum. There's a hole in the ceiling. It had been bombed recently. It's kind of like in the basement, but an overgrown basement that way too much water had gotten into. So there's moss and stuff growing. So a rusty moss covered mech that's ready to be awoken, in its time of need.
Okay, I accept it.
Yeah, but I don't know. Having second thoughts, but I might do it anyway.
They also have the Snords pack there.
I like that Snords pack. That Frankenmech. It just tickles me the right way.
What was else? I didn't pick up the Snords pack because.
Oh, it's got a Rhonda's Highlander in there. It has the Sentinel. Sentinel? No. It kind of looks like an imp. What is that?
The second person to ask.
Well, I had it,
Spartan.
but that's the one, the Spartan. Yes. And a jumping guillotine.
So all these are like the little, $5, $6 things at Adepticon, right? And there was nothing really to like steal our credit cards and hold it down and make us think if we really wanted to pay rent that week, right? There was nothing.
I don't know. There were those plushies that I admit I bought way too many of.
Stupid plushies.
They're not stupid. They're cuddly and awesome. Except none of them were awesomes.
Okay, what was it? The Atlas one, like the AC-20 was a little too much like, that's just the nipple.
There's a big nipple.
But we're a miniatures podcast, so I'm thinking about miniatures.
They're fluffy miniatures.
Not plushies. Look, I've seen no one play a game with those yet, so.
Oh, yeah. As soon as I collect the whole set, we are definitely, not you and me, we the people over here are definitely going to play a fluffy game of BattleTech. We've already got the fluffy dice and everything.
Okay.
So there.
What was I going to say? But they did have the Destiny Scale Marauder.
That's true. And up close, it looked really good.
Yeah. They had one that got assembled, I want to say that day.
Yes.
Someone decided to just assemble it there and then, which I thought was
I watched it being assembled. Yeah.
It's hilarious. Like, they didn't even have one to like show.
Well, they did on day 2 because they
day
assembled
2.
that one and they put it up in the shelf until it got sold out.
Yeah. So what are we thinking now that we can see it like up close?
I mean, it's pretty, and I really like it, and it's a standard resin model of a mini. My only problem with it is that I don't have a collection of them that I can play a large scale game of BattleTech with,
like a large scale Solaris duel.
Right, give me a couple more of these, and then making them a little bit cheaper, and I will be all in.
Make them cheaper. That's not how.
Hey, it is one of the few BattleTech things that I did not buy while I was at Adepticon.
Okay.
For myself.
Okay. Was it? When I got to look up close, it was actually higher quality than what I thought. Like the resin wasn't all warped or bubbly.
Right.
There were only a few pieces that really had distinct flashing that I could see, or mold lines.
But it looked like easy to clean up mold lines to me.
Yeah, this is like hobby knife.
Yeah, nothing that you'd have to like do putty and sanding and things.
No.
And my Timberwolf definitely needed putty and sanding for that. That was my old resin model from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it needed a lot more work than that Marauder looks like.
Okay. So that's all. We've got the Kickstarter. We had the Premium Rifleman miniature, premium in quotation marks, Proliferation packs, Snords packs, the Destiny Scale Marauders, plushies, anything else that was supposed to be at Adepticon, or I mean, so that's miniatures wise. Things that were not miniature. We were supposed to see the Alpha Strike support packs,
right?
And
they just never showed up.
They just never showed up.
Yep, we were supposed to have some for sale at the booth and have them for all of the Alpha Strike tournaments that were going on that week. And they just never showed up. It wasn't my fault.
What was it? Yeah. And there was also the Recognition Guide pack? What is that called?
The Ilclan Recognition Guide Volume 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had hundreds of those. They sold out.
And they sold out of those?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they did. Yep. I picked one up for me, obviously, and then I got one for a couple friends of mine. And then by Saturday, I think, Saturday or Sunday, they were all sold out.
Okay. Well, I think that's enough Adepticon, news, I should say, because we're going to talk all about Adepticon for the next 2 hours.
True. All we've touched on so far is the Kickstarter and the Catalyst booth that was there. We haven't talked about Adepticon itself at all.
Yeah. All right. Have you got any hobby progress since our last episode for Adepticon and post Adepticon?
I went to Adepticon. That was my hobby progress.
There you go. I got all of my forces that I was taking to Adepticon finished painted, so I'll talk about that during that section.
Nice.
Alrighty. Games played. Oh man, this entire episode just games played. This whole episode just feels wrong. We do have a fan mail though that came in. I'm trying to keep the queue rolling on that now. So Steve writes, "Gentlemen, recently our local play group has been broadening our horizons into combined arms. What advice would you give players unfamiliar with vehicles trying to use tanks, hovercraft, and VTOLs effectively in both classic BattleTech and Alpha Strike? Conversely, what advice would you give to new players now faced with combating these new threats? Thanks, Steve."
Are we using the battlefield support points or are we using the total warfare rules? Because both are valid at this point. They're not trying. Catalyst is not trying to make one better than the other. They're giving people options.
I feel like this is more for total warfare. Like if they write in both classic BattleTech and Alpha Strike, I always feel like if they are writing both of those, they know what a BSP is.
Okay, so and it pains me to say it, but that blackjack with AC2s. Use that. Plink at them from as long range as you possibly can, because you can get motive crits on them, and then they just become turrets, and then you ignore them. That's a really good way of dealing with vehicles. With hovercraft, just try and make it so that you're in woods and they can't come around behind you because hovercraft can't enter wood hexes. Other than that, just treat them like second class mechs. You respect their armor, you respect their firepower, but you use your superior mobility to get a better position, and you just continuously use better tactics against the vehicles, and you will eventually clean them up.
I mean, that's how to face them. I guess my advice for people unfamiliar with trying to use them is take one, like pick a very easy one, like pick a tread tank, like your run of the line. I'm trying to think of like what's the most Scorpion? Is a Scorpion the one with just an AC5?
Yeah, it's got an AC5 and an SRM6, so that's a really good one because it's got a close range weapon and a long range weapon.
Yeah, like that is the most basic.
Yep, it can even go into light woods because it has treads.
Yeah, so you can have AC5, machine gun, SRM, like one of everything essentially.
Right, don't go crazy to begin with if you're just starting out.
So
don't immediately try and use your, 12 Savannah Masters if you've never used vehicles before. Because switching right to hover to begin with, that's just a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah. Also, I would recommend trying on Megamech and just playing around, like you putting a bot with, like, I don't know, the exact same vehicle to see what they can do and what they can't do. You can see your movement, make the maps like, okay, I'm moving up this, two level or this level 2 terrain. Oh, my vehicle can't do that. Oh, but I can move up level 1. Well, I wonder why. And then you can go to the rule book and see, oh, vehicles are only level 1 tall, so they can only go up a level 1 at a single time.
Right.
So you kind of have to. Vehicles are hard. Like, no one's saying they're not. So you got to take whatever you can get. If you got an experienced player, you can use their brain to kind of like teach you. Don't do the, hey, can you take all vehicles and I try to fight you? Because that just isn't going to end up fun. But
right, and if you like the idea of combined arms, but it's really slowing the game down, don't be afraid to try the BSP version of them either, just to see which way that you guys like better. I'm a big fan of learning both rule sets and then deciding which one you want to play. Because your campaign game may favor one style or the other.
Yeah. What's it?
Thanks, Steve.
I was just going to say,
sorry.
Yeah, in Alpha Strike, they're really easy. The only difference is firing arc, because half of them have turret and the other half don't. And
right.
Just if they take a hit, every time they take a hit, they do a motive check. It's just, there's a specific table. So if you go there, 99% of the vehicle rules for Alpha Strike are just on motive checks.
Right. Like a unit is a unit in Alpha Strike, and then the vehicle type of unit has a couple extra rules instead of a whole section of extra rules like in Classic.
Yeah. Tracked, can't go in woods. Wow, that's really the majority of that distinction. So yeah. Their vehicles are not hard if you start slow and kind of do your homework slowly. Like,
right.
All right, let's review what this one single tracked vehicle does. Because as soon as you switched over to a wheeled vehicle, the rules are going to change. So start with one type and roll with that.
Yeah, try a map with a lot of terrain variety and do an escort mission where you're in mechs escorting like one or two vehicles. And that way you're going to learn how a vehicle moves and how annoying it is using the different types of rule sets.
I like that. Thank you, Steve Maisel. Maisel? How are we doing that one?
It's Maisel.
Okay. Thanks, Steve Maisel. All right. That's our news. That's our hobby progress. That's our games played. Well, except game played is the rest of it, and then our fan mail.
I played a lot of games.
I believe you. You want to take a quick break and then come back into it? Sounds good.
Fantastic.
As we come upon a most solemn occasion in the inner sphere, the truly memorial month of May, it is a time to hearken back to those dark days when the barbarian clans first invaded the cradle of civilization. There was a worry, a fear, that these clans would crush and shackle the freedoms we hold so dear. In our darkest days, a bright light rose to save humanity. Precentor Marshal Anastasius Vogt, the Calm Guards. These forces staved off the hordes sweeping down from the periphery. This May, we relive these battles, these heroes, these martyrs. Tukied Heat, one Mega Mech game every week. A single 7,500 mech only lit. Can you rise above the legends of old? Prove your honor where so many others have failed. Email mrcengaged@gmail.com for more info. List must be submitted by April 24th. Until then, Warriors, may the best mech win.
All right. So we're talking about Adepticon.
Adepticon was long, man. That was really long.
It's honestly like, where do you start with Adepticon? It's like, I'd love to just work my way back.
I was not prepared.
I mean, I was not prepared. This was my longest event that I've done ever.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Hands down.
So Adepticon is the, like, I want to say Central America Wargaming Convention to go to. Like, I say Wargaming Convention because it's specifically like tabletop board games and miniature war games.
Well, I mean, the history of Adepticon, it used to just be Warhammer because it was owned by GW. And then when they decided to not have it anymore, it was purchased privately, and then other companies were invited. So it turned out to be, instead of just a Warhammer convention, it was a all wargaming convention focused on battlefield miniatures.
Look at that! I'm learning so much. Learning so much. What's the word? So yeah, so it was.
There was a lot of miniatures there.
I want to say,
if it's a miniatures game, it was there.
I want to say, like 40% was Warhammer, 30% maybe like Star Wars, Legion, Star Wars, Armada, Legion? X-Wing.
Yeah. Yep.
Some Marvel Crisis Protocol, some Infinity.
Way more Marvel Crisis than I thought was going to be there. It was a big chunk.
And I actually want to say coming in under that number was BattleTech.
Probably. BattleTech was, their presence was 400% bigger than last year. So imagine, remember what it was there and just take away 75% of those tables. And that's how it was last year.
Yeah. Because BattleTech was taking up 4 rows.
Right. But also there weren't tournaments last year either.
No. So the events that were hosting BattleTech events there were grinders, which I'll let you describe grinder. What is a grinder for BattleTech?
All right. So the grinder, not a grinder, it's the grinder, is probably the BattleTech scenario that is best suited for conventions. It was pretty much designed for the convention in mind. What happens is you buy a ticket to the grinder, and that ticket lasts, all day long. So you show up, you get a report card, and you get a mech. It's a crappy mech. It's really bad, but that is your mech. And you put it on one of the random tables that has, anywhere from 6 to 10 people on there, and you play. If you get a kill with your crappy mech, you get a random salvage box. If you get your mech killed, you bring it back up there, and they give you a better mech. So it's a win-win either way. And you can play for as long as you want. And you can drop out. And if you do drop out, your progress is recorded in your little report card. So when you come back later, you don't have to start back over from the crappy mechs. You can keep using the better tier mechs. So it's a drop in, drop out. Just roll dice and have fun and see what kind of cool stories pop up during the convention. It works best if there is prize support. So I know that some gaming companies try to have them, and they're fun, but it's just not the same without the hundreds of strangers that you're playing against and random prizes. So, but that's Grindr in a nutshell.
Okay.
I didn't quite understand it until I went there because I've never played in one, but I had to run the Grindr 2 of the 4 days that I was there, and I learned a lot about it. And I'm like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. So there was Grindr going on for one table. They had like boot camps, which, knowing what a boot camp is, this was teaching people how to play both Classic and Alpha Strike BattleTech.
Correct. There was 2 different boot camps. There's Alpha Strike boot camp and Classic boot camp, and that's exactly right. They just walk you through how to play the game, and then a lot of times send you off to the Grindr after that. Also, a couple other things that they had that were not tournament related. They did have the narrative campaign going on at the same time on a large table, and they also had their other IP Leviathans, where they were doing Leviathan boot camps and a narrative camp for that.
Cruise.
Yes. So they had a couple cool things. It was nifty.
Yeah. So those took up like 2 tables to do all of that, and the other 2 tables were essentially whatever tournament was going on that day.
Yep.
So they had the BattleTech Tournament Championship Circuit Alpha Strike one, the classic version of the same format, the Wolfnet 350, and then the classic Open Tournament. So they had a different event every day.
Yeah, they did.
And I did those, busy. And you did grinders and boot camps.
And I could see you from where I was, but you look pretty busy.
I was very busy. People would walk over and be like, "Hey, I'm here to meet Josh," and you'd like point at them and point at me, be like, "He's busy right now." How can you tell? He's sitting down. So, before we get into all that, did you have fun at Adepticon?
Oh my goodness, I had a blast. I had fun almost the entire time. I think the only time I can say I was not having fun was what, Friday morning? Friday morning I was not having fun.
Why is that?
But that's because I had too much fun Thursday night.
Oh, so you borrowed the next day's fun.
Yeah, I just had a bit of a headache. It wasn't bad or anything. It was just a bit of dehydration and a headache that I had to deal with a lot of Friday. It was worth it, though. Totally worth it.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah. I don't get out much these days. All right. Well, how about you? How much fun did you have? I know you had fun. How much fun did you have, Josh?
Oh, on the Josh scale of fun? 6 out of 10?
6 out of 10?
Yeah.
Wow. That's like a lot of fun for you.
That's a lot of fun. The lows were lows and the highs were highs. I would not say it was a all consistent funness.
Well, I mean, a 6 means that the lows and highs balanced out with a favor to the highs slightly.
Yeah,
just barely.
Just barely.
Just barely.
It's that just barely for a reason. All right. So yeah. So that's my. Did I have fun? Yes.
Barely.
Barely.
Well, tell us about it. Shall we start with what? Day one?
Let's start with the prep. So, because we finished up with our mailbag episode and we left that there because I was like, I still got a lot of painting to do. So I had to make a list for 3 of the events that week, send those in, got one sent back to me because they were like, hey, this bonus doesn't work the way you think it is. And I was like, I was literally packing up that day for my flight the next morning. I was like, I do not have time to change this. Is this illegal? He's like, no, you just can't do what you said you could do on the force sheet. And I was like, I don't care.
I mean, fine. I saw it. To be fair, he was totally correct. But
he was totally right. But I was also technically correct.
No.
Yes. But yeah, so I finished painting all of my guys. I finished painting all of my Snow Ravens for the Alpha Strike events and all of my Comstar, which were masquerading as Word of Blake for the other 2 events. So I got
That's a lot of painting.
It was a lot of
painting.
I think I painted 15 units.
Yeah, in prep for Adepticon, I painted 0 units. I painted 1 while I was there, but
That's nice.
yeah, well, they had a painting class. It was cute. I got a free Cauldron Born out of it.
I mean, technically, I had to paint the entire Snow Ravens from start to finish, so 14. I don't know. So yeah, so I painted at least 20 units.
That's a lot. From
0 to tournament grade painting, I should say. Yeah, that was a lot. I'm not doing that
That's
again.
A lot.
He's man. Who
Well,
says he's
you
not
say
going
you're not
to do
doing that again.
You know me too well, sir.
Flash forward to the very next tournament. I'm doing it again.
Here I go. Forgive me, Master. Just this once.
Yeah, my prep for Adepticon was just getting over being sick. That was horrible.
That sucks.
And I did. I got over it with a day or 2 to spare.
So yeah, so I got a lot of stuff painted. Then packing was difficult. Packing was the day before, at 11 o'clock on the floor. Me wondering how to fit 35 units into a 20 unit carrying case, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. And then my wife just comes over and he's like, Josh, you can use your Warhammer, cases. They fit in mechs. And I was like, no, they don't. And she literally takes my BattleTech Feldherr cases, the foam, and puts them into a Warhammer case. And instead of stacking on top, they stack next to each other. And it's like showing a caveman fire at that moment. I was like, wait, things can go into other boxes.
I know, right?
No. I do not believe.
Yeah, I should have packed an empty suitcase in one of my suitcases for all this stuff that I knew I was going to buy coming home. And I did pack really light with a lot of extra space. It just wasn't enough. So I did have to use one of my resources and get Dan to ship me home some of the stuff that I got.
Pathetic. Not shoving it into your same suitcase.
Someday it will arrive.
Oh. Wait, so you haven't even gotten all your stuff back yet?
No.
Oh, man. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right, so yeah, so I had to prep, I had to paint, I had to not really assemble much. I did have to buy things. I bought a new pack of elementals because I had to, get those. I had to modify things. We'll talk about that. See, this is the problem. I'm doing each event. All right. So I get on my plane. How's your plane ride?
Oh, plane ride there was fantastic. Yeah, couldn't have asked for better.
And we were at opposite ends of the same terminal at the same time.
Yes.
I
left 2 hours before you did, but yeah.
And you arrived 2 hours after me.
Yeah. That sounds right.
See, the problem is I was on the plane with all the X-Wing players. I literally look over as soon as I sat down, and I'm like, hey, Feldherr case, X-Wing emblems and patches. Ew, no. They were nice, so we talked. It was kind of nice because for someone who's only flown solo, or who has never flown solo before, it was kind of nice for someone who's like, oh yeah, I've been to Adepticon before, locally, that you've ran into occasionally. And I was like, mind if I stay next to you so I don't get murdered by TSA?
Yeah, no, I had a connecting flight, and the person who sat next to me on my first flight happened to also sit next to me on my second flight. Wow. And it just blew her mind. She was like, I have to call my mom. I'm like, oh, you don't fly very often, do you? It was really weird.
I mean, does that happen very often?
It happens often enough. Yeah, I have flown enough where that has happened more than once to me. So much so that I do not think that it is worthy of a call to my mother.
I mean, I wouldn't call my mother.
She literally right there called her mom.
Mom, yeah. The stranger's stalking me. He's stalking me to Schaumburg, Illinois.
Yeah.
Said no one ever.
She was not on her way to Adepticon. There were people going to Adepticon on my plane, though, so at least I knew I was going in the right direction.
There's only one reason for anyone to go from any local area to O'Hare in the late March.
The weather was nice, mostly.
Mostly.
Only snowed one day.
Almost died. Almost froze. Almost had Phelan Kell come out in a quad mech with emergency supplies. It was bad. It was real rough.
Kodiak base. Kodiak.
All right, so we land. We get to our hotels. You're staying in the hotel, which is super nice because you're operating as a Catalyst demo team agent for this event, and I am operating as a Mechbay podcast agent.
That is true.
Yeah. So Wednesday rolls around, and I realized that we could go to the hotel and get our badges early, like possibly 5 o'clock, most likely 7 o'clock. So we decided to head on over, and the Catalyst booth is already set up, and it's the only only vendor selling things at this time because they are not in the vendor hall. They are in the hotel.
It turns out that they accidentally got put in the lobby once before, and they're like, we don't have to follow any of the rules. We can set up and sell, and so they have requested that location ever since, and they love it because they choose their selling hours.
Their selling hours are whenever they want.
Exactly. And it worked out well for them. They sold so much stuff on Wednesday. So much that a lot of the cool Adepticon only things were sold out on Wednesday before the convention actually started.
3 to 4 hours.
Yes. So Snords Irregulars, gone. Proliferation Pack, gone.
Yeah. It was kind of disappointing that they only had that limited of a stock for only day 0, essentially, of the convention.
Yeah. That whole big pile of plushies lasted a couple days, but it sold out. They didn't have a single one left.
Man.
They did have the 30-foot urban mech outside, though, briefly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had to take it down when it started snowing and getting windy, because then it would have rolled out into the street and caused general havoc.
Would have
been super cool.
Would that have caused more or less havoc than a regular urban mech?
I was about to say that it's probably be just as effective as an actual urban mech rolling around through the city.
So day 1, we shake hands. I meet Randall, and I think I met Lauren. And
you did. You gave him a sticker, and he's like, "Oh, I recognize this." So he recognized it, but I don't think you were introduced. Like, I don't think you knew that was Lauren. I think you were just handing out stickers.
I was just handing out stickers. You want a sticker?
And that was like the last you saw Lauren.
Yeah. So that's Wednesday. We bought stuff. We hang out. We met some of our fans and friends. Hung out with Will Donta and his friend Jeff. Yeah. So I was staying with Steve Maisel during all this. So he was my, Detroit buddy who drove on up to chauffeur me to and from the hotel.
Nice.
But no, Steve was awesome. So I met Steve and we all hung out there while we waited in line for like 2 hours to get our badges.
Yeah, I didn't. I had a CDT meeting that I went to instead, and then I waited in line significantly less time after my meeting ended, like 2 hours later, and I still got my badge that night as well.
I mean, as long as you get it, it's okay. It's not like they're going to run out of anything.
Right.
Like, that's the whole point. If you get X, they have to reserve X.
Yeah, those swag bags were insane, too. There was so much stuff.
So much stuff. If you have the means to get a swag bag at one of these conventions, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. More than I ever thought. Like, I looked at him like, well, I don't have enough luggage. I know that for sure.
Yeah, so day 1, we hang out, we have dinner, we go back to the hotels because we've got
dinner.
What do we have for dinner day 1?
Yeah. Well, we ate at the restaurant at the in my hotel.
At the hotel.
Yeah.
That was the best restaurant.
I know. Well, the prices were amazing for a hotel restaurant. Like, they were really, really good. I had a brisket grilled cheese sandwich, and it was the most amazing thing I had eaten in a long time. Everything I ate there was just fantastic. Everything. And reasonably priced.
I mean, I definitely ate there 50% of the days just because you could not beat the quality and price.
Oh, yeah. Well, I made the mistake of being in a hurry and skipping that place for breakfast once because I had this Denver omelet with this plate of hash browns and coffee, and all that was like $12. And then the little concession stand had this stale sausage and egg biscuit with a pretty gross coffee, also for $12. So, given the options, sign me up at the restaurant. I just need to get up, 20 minutes early, and I did from then on.
But yeah, that was very much worth it. It was great having dinner with everyone there. And then we started the actual Adepticon.
Yes, the next day.
So day one, Wednesday. Oh, sorry. So day one of games, day two of us being there, I should say.
Right. So Thursday. We'll call it Thursday.
There we go. For you, for me, it was Thursday. So I had the BattleTech tournament championship circuit for Alpha Strike. And that was going to be 4 games of 400 PV Alpha Strike using, you could take 2 lists, either an attacker or defender list. And yeah, and you were using full formation bonuses and special pilot abilities for Alpha Strike. So first off, out of the gate, prepping for that was tough because I had never done the full rule book Alpha Strike. I had always done let's just play multiple attack roll and get it over with. This was not that. This was, they voted for multiple damage roll and 90 minutes. And out the gate, I was like, that's going to be rough. I messaged the TO and they were like, we understand. We're going to try to see how it works.
And how many games did not go full time?
I finished 2 games early.
Wow, that is 2 games more than I thought that you would.
I'm a good player. I'm a professional Alpha Strike player, some might say.
You get money for it?
I have a podcast. Is that close enough?
But you don't get a podcast for winning Alpha Strike games.
That's true.
You are not a professional Alpha Strike player.
Oh.
Tell me about your list, Josh.
So we had to make a 400 PV list. I took 3 formations, essentially. I took a Battle Lance or Battle Star because I was running a Snow Raven Ill Clan list. A Nova, and at the time I thought I was taking a Fire Support Lance, and actually I was just taking a single point of Protomechs.
Right, 5 Protomechs, right?
5 Protomechs.
Yes.
So my list, and I will say I did not change much between the attacker and defender, even though I got the option to completely take 2 completely separate lists. I was like, I'm not doing that. That's too much.
Yeah, that seems very complicated.
There is not enough space on the table, nor in my case, to do all that. So I was like, I'm taking 1 list and consequences be damned. So my first formation, I'm taking a Warcrow Prime with the Combat Intuition special pilot ability. And that special pilot ability lets me essentially act. If I win initiative, I can move and resolve all of my shots and damage before my opponent can act.
And you could do that once a game, or once?
Once every 3 turns.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So that's my heavily armored, good mobility, good shots at skill 3, and essentially, if something's wounded, I can finish it off pretty reliably before I can get another turn in. So I'm almost getting 2 turns of shooting in if I finish shooting with that and then win initiative, activate it again. So,
you can only shoot with them once per turn.
Yeah, so that is, if you do that, it is that turn's shooting.
Right.
And to help that, my second unit, an Omen, which had the Tactical Genius ability, which, guess what, lets me reroll initiative if I fail it every other turn, or once every 2 turns, I should say. So I essentially have geared this entire list up to win initiative, and then exploit initiative even further. After that, I have a White Raven, a Carrion Crow Prime, a Cauldron-born G. I have 3 of the new Rec Guide Stormbird battle armors, using the Nova ride on top of the mech and shoot off the mech while riding at a +2 difficulty.
Right.
And then I have my point of Protomechs. I have 2 Hippogriffs, 2 Rocks, and the only difference between my attacker and defender list is a Gorgon and a Chrysaor.
That is a very tiny difference.
It is literally 12 PV difference between 2 lists. So, yeah, my list was really just designed to win initiative, kill stuff very fast.
Now, are Protomechs in Alpha Strike treated like in Classic, so you had to move all 5 of them?
Nope, move each one individually.
Okay.
So that's a little exploitive, and that's exactly what I intended to do, because I've figured most of these games would have objectives. So I was like, okay, I'm taking Protomechs to grab objectives, Battle Armor to be a blade of armor, but also drop onto objectives, and the Stormbirds, first time you're hearing me mention of them, 2 heat in short, 3 damage in short, 3 damage in medium, and they are fire resistant.
Right.
So
we all know how much I like anything little that shoots fire in Alpha Strike. I like it a lot.
It's very powerful. They were quite nasty. They weren't they weren't the super linchpin you would think. Just,
Well, their mobility is low, right?
Their mobility is low because they have
they're called Firebirds or Stormbirds, but they don't fly or jump.
They get 2 inches of movement. So really, they're attached to the mech, and that's it. In this event, they were using force withdrawal for Alpha Strike. So if they got to under half
structure,
under half structure. So if they took 3 out of their 4 damage, they had to retreat back. But if they're retreating only 2 inches and they've got 3 damage in short, they're pretty much always going to be shooting.
Right.
So once again, a little exploitive, but also really wanted to take them. So that's my list. From your immediate perspective, thoughts or anything?
I didn't realize that that Alpha Strike dealt with Protomechs differently than Classic, because I never looked it up. So yeah, I would have thought that would given you an incredible advantage to have 5 independent initiative syncs in your list. They
all served a purpose, and there was only one game where they didn't really do anything, and that's because they just died very early on.
Well, how did your list do?
So game 1, I played Joseph, and we played King of the Hill. He took 2 Wraiths, a Charger, a Gargoyle, Blackhawk, some Hovercraft, and an Alarcorn heavy tank in the back.
I like Wraiths in Alpha Strike. I think they're really good.
Oh, they were great. For King of the Hill, not so much.
Oh, that Charger had to have done some good in King of the Hill, though.
It did okay. So we got to use battlefield support points, 6 points of them in Alpha Strike. So he lays a large minefield down on my closest approach to the hill, essentially, to score. And I'm like, great, guess what? I throw Protomechs onto this minefield to blow it up.
All right.
And I'm like, cool, you've killed my 11-point unit, and I've cleared your 6 BSP minefield, which does 3 damage. I don't care. And I'm just like, this feels very Soviet / Warhammer 40,000, but it's working for me. And I was like, hey, game 1.
Your units know what they signed up for.
Exactly. They're Protomech dudes. They don't care.
They know they're not coming home.
He's only 3 days away from retirement, and he doesn't want to retire. So I cleared the minefield, and I still had my BSPs. I don't even remember if I used them in that game. Like, the Alpha Strike ones just felt weird. I think I might have tried the Long Tom, and it just missed. But yeah, so essentially all of his hovercraft raced towards the center of the hill, and all of my battle armor, the hippogriffs, jumping TMM5 onto the hill. So we're really tying with all of our cheap units until like turn 2 or 3 that his like skill 2 Blackhawk is getting ready to do some major damage, and that's when I pop that combat intuition, activate for him, kill him, and after that I was just outnumbering him.
No bad feelings there.
No, not at all. So I dropped the Stormbirds off in between like a valley so he can't move through them, and his Charger's the only thing that got through. His tanks and Wraiths like couldn't without jumping over, and he didn't want to. And I just lit the Charger and Gargoyle up with the Stormbirds in the rear. So that's like doing 3-4 damage in the rear every turn.
Yeah.
He wasn't generating enough TMM, so I'm only hitting him like a 5, even at skill 4. So it was great. I loved it. And I'm hitting him with 2 heat as well. It was beautiful. So I won that
slow you
one.
down as well.
Yeah, so I won that one, not by much. Like it was only like a 20-point lead because I only got like 5 turns in out of a 12-turn game, or 8 turns.
Oh, so if it had gone more turns, it would have been more.
I would have gotten more points, yeah.
You don't say, oh, you got the victory, therefore you get this many more points.
No, and we'll go into that.
Okay.
No, they specifically said call it how it is, not to talk it out how it would go.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's game 1 against Joseph. It was great. I won that one. Game 2, I played Sam and her Capellan list. She took a Catapult and some Vandals, Xanthos, and some infantry. And
nice.
What was it was like a big, was it a direwolf? It was something huge, like some big assault mech. I think it had hardened armor. What was it? It was a Stalker. That's what it was. So they took
Stalker with hardened armor will take a long time to kill.
Yes. And they won the roll-off, and they decided to be the defender on this one. And this was the mission where you just have to run across the board. And I was like, oh no. You gave the clan player the run across the board mission. And
the other option is to run across the board with a Stalker with hardened armor, which is already slow.
Yes, but you only had to get 3 units across the board to max out. And I'm very certain those Vandals could have done that, in my opinion. Their defender list was just a more generic Capellan list, and their attacker list was a C3 and artillery list, and they decided to go with the generic list. And I think that was the biggest mistake that Sam made. Like they played great. It was just like, I think giving the clan player the option to just run across the board and put 3 units across was, hard to deny.
Gotcha. So it didn't go well.
It did not go well for them. Turn 1, I jump up my Viper and like at peak long range, I roll a 12. I get the crit and I weapon destroy the catapult. Turn 2, I do the same thing again.
Poor catapult.
Poor catapult. I mean, it did. It was on a hill getting ready to launch artillery, and I'm just there like, nope, blowing off an arm each turn. The catapult got critted out, which, because we were playing with force withdrawal rules, just had to leave.
Popped up, waved, went back. Yeah, I get it.
I've never in Alpha Strike even completely zeroed out a mech's ability to do damage. Like, didn't know you could actually do it statistically, but apparently I did. So I felt bad. I felt like I was cheating with my rolling 12s, but but no, it was super. They took a gun trailer, and
I've heard of
Yes,
I've didn't you run into some of those in Southern Assault?
Yeah, the one in Southern Assault was cheating though, because they were attached to something without a hitch. These were attached to something with a hitch, but they didn't have the movement to really do anything but deploy. So they deployed and then had 0 movement, and then they detached them. So then they're technically immobile, technically, right?
Right.
So
if they're deployed, they should be considered immobile. Yeah.
Yeah, because they have 0 movement without it. So I just from long range shot it and destroyed it. So I was like, cool, that entire flank is now empty. So I just sprinted my carry-on crow with a Stormbird off the map. And yeah, it was like 60 PV, but I scored 40 points on that. And the other side, I had the Chrysaor just jumping like 12 or 18. Some stupid Protomech TMM just off the map. And I was like, cool, I max scored my attacker points. I don't want to say that game was in the bag, but Josh's smooth brain does really good at run across board, ignore enemy. But when Josh's dice say kill the enemy, kill them now, it's like, all right.
Do you get bonus points for killing any units?
Yeah, so the primary objective for all these was whatever the mission was, and then 40% of it was just kill the enemy. So as long as you killed 40% of the enemy's force, you max scored that as well.
Max that out. Gotcha.
So yeah, it was real easy. Like that was my max one, and I think the only thing they killed was my Omen. Yeah. By the end of it, I had even killed their Stalker.
Wow.
So after that, I'm feeling pretty good. Game 3, I play Cole, and this is each of us has an objective, and we each get points off of it. So I place my objective behind a building. He places his behind some level 1 hills. He has a classic inner sphere list. He has a Locust, a Stinger, a Wasp, a Spider. He has a Crab, Longbow, Catapult, Archer, and Orion, and then 3 more like hovercraft guys.
The Stinger and the Wasp in Classic or Alpha Strike, I just don't like them. They're too slow and they don't have any armor.
No, but in this, they were really good because they could just swarm. Especially this was single attack roll. So there was only one chance to hit. So if they're because it's multiple damage roll, I only got one chance to hit them. So even with my big buckets of dice, if I waste any shots on them, I waste my entire turn of shooting with that mech.
That's true. That is true.
So
but, wow, the Longbow, the Catapult, and the Archer, and the Orion, they've got there's some missile boys right there. Yeah,
so he was indirect firing, and those are low skill. I want to say that Longbow was skill 1 or skill 2. So I have continuously struggled with the low skill indirect fire mechs.
Right.
Especially when he has all of the little hovercraft and the spiders and whatnot spotting for him.
That Spider as a spotter? Yep. I agree. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I didn't like it. So he puts a minefield as his BSP. I don't even remember what I did as mine. I did strike. I did some strikes and bombing because he grouped all his guys up, and I got 2 free damage on 3 of them, which was cool.
That's nice.
Yeah. We tied this one just because he could never push me off my home objective, and I could never push him off his home objective. Which, considering we were both kind of elite swarmy list,
right?
I could see that.
So he had the inner sphere version of your list.
He had the inner sphere version of my list. My Protomechs, he actually killed a lot of them, just unlucky rolls, because he had enough swarming units. The Wasp hitting your Protomech on a 10-up, I do half the damage on one hit, so it doesn't really matter. So, yeah. So I tied that one at 60 to 60 points.
Wow.
Yeah. And my last game of that day was against Steve Maisel. And this was just pure killing. He took a Loki, a Stormcrow, a Mad Cat, a Vulture Mark 4D, my personal favorite, and he took 5 Gnome battle armor.
Nice. Hey, what kind of Mad Cat?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him. Yeah, so this was awesome because I had played Steve at Southern Assault, so it was great to play him again to rematch it. And turn 1, he just throws down artillery, wipes. He doesn't wipe them because they only took the 1 damage artillery, but he puts the Protomechs into force withdrawal, which I thought was hilarious. Yeah, immediately. I was like, oh, wow. There it goes. Does the math. 20 PV of my 400 point list.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Steve was amazing. He was intelligent because he never dropped the battle armor, so they were constantly soaking up damage at his mechs. And he was also running the like battle star with the Nova bonus. So they're riding.
So they could shoot off of there. Yep, That's nice. Those gnomes have a lot of armor.
Yeah, same as my Stormbirds, except they don't do 2 heat. I think the only reason, we tied this game because once we each killed like 50, 60% of each other's list, like that was the max point skill. Points.
Right, so you both maxed out and then it didn't matter.
Yeah, and then it doesn't matter. I say that looking at the end of the day when they tallied up the points, I was like, wait, ties counted as losses? Because I have 2 wins, and you're not counting ties. So I actually was in 7th place for wins. I never lost, but they weren't counting ties as anything.
I mean, you can't count a tie as a win.
No, but it's not a loss.
But even so, if you were in 7th place, counting them, like other people had gotten more wins.
Oh yeah,
anyway.
Everyone else had gotten 3 wins.
Right. So in the end, like it wouldn't have changed your placing, I don't think.
No. Well, actually, so this was the weird thing. So for them, they were only using how many points you got per game as like the tiebreakers. So if you use that, I was in 4th place. So it's because it's the weird part of the missions were very easy to tie because all you had to do was kill 40% to get your max killing points. And then whatever objective, there were only like 3 ways, like 20, 40, 60. So there wasn't actually like a very easy way to get above. Both players could score independently of the other person for most missions.
Okay, but either way, like it wasn't like it was keeping you out of the top 3 or anything.
No.
Yeah.
I say that, except because of all this, like the scoring sheets were literally the worst thing I've ever seen.
It doesn't surprise me. I didn't hear a lot of super stuff about the BTCC in their first outing, except for I hope they learned a lot and can polish it up better for next time.
So, in my perspective, after 4 games and seeing the scoring sheets they handed out, they literally had to change the scoring sheets midway through because no one was able to do them correctly. Because of this, someone would have gotten like first place that didn't get first place because they were like, hey, I won all 4 of my games. Why am I not on the podium? And they were like, they had to go back and pull out his scoring sheets. And he's like, this is backwards. And he's like, yeah, I did it how, and they're like, no. And he's like, so you won all 4 games? And he's like, yeah.
Oh, he had to mark down that he lost all 4 games?
Either that or they, just weren't tracking. But he was like, yeah, I played this guy, and they could find out. So they saw all the scores and like, oh no, you did win. So they screwed over one guy for first place. So at that point, I have no faith in the scoring system at all.
Yep. I mean, this is why play tests are important.
Yeah. Yeah, but our buddy Steve.
So a fun first tournament.
Yeah, right. Our buddy Steve Maisel got 2nd place because he got his 3 wins, and then he tied against me.
That's got to be a Mad Cat A then. All right.
It probably was. All right, so yeah, that's end of day 1. So we all go out to dinner. We go out with Will, John, Jeff, other John, David, Ed, you, me, and Dan?
And Dan.
My God, that's so many people.
Hi, Dan.
But yeah,
many people.
That was awesome going out to dinner. We all went out to pizza because, Mechbay pizza party.
Yep. Pizza and beer. It was awesome.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank, because I said your real names, but now I have to say your Discord names. Vaporlock, Tweezer, Toucan Stan, De La Cruz, Metal Ed, and I guess me, you, Dan, David, and I don't know the...
Dan is Disaster.
Okay. But yeah, Metal Ed was there. So it was great.
Yeah, it was a fun time. I had a lot of fun eating pizza and drinking way too much beer. It was good to meet everybody. Always good to get faces matched up with your Discord handles. I may not remember your real name, but at least when I read your comments, I know what you look like, and I know who's talking to me. So it means I will probably ignore you less.
Put a face to your name.
That's right. Oh, the pizza there was so good too. And there was like 170 beers on tap there or something. It was crazy amount of beers. It was a lot. But I drank too much, which led into Friday. Was not a super happy day. Oh, no. I mean, while you were doing all this tournament stuff, I was running the BattleTech boot camp. Because 2 of the days I was in charge of BattleTech boot camp, 2 of the days I was in charge of the grinder. So I was teaching people mostly 3 tables of 2 people. So 6 people at a time, once every hour for 6 hours is what I was doing. So doing some quick math, that's 36 people I taught how to play BattleTech each day that I was doing boot camp. I think my favorite story from day one, though, was some kid, I think he was like 11, on the middle table, was paired up against someone probably in his early 30s, late 20s. This one was a Panther versus a Jenner. Intro tech, just getting people used to how things move, how things fire. On turn 2, the 11-year-old with a Panther shot the Jenner, got a lucky hit the leg. Jenner's only got 6 armor, so when Turnal rolls that 12 for the critical and blows the leg off. The Jenner falls down. And the kid's like, "Oh, that's awesome. I want to go pick up the leg." And I'm like, "Okay, let's go do that." And he's like, "Wait, you'll let me?" I'm like, "Let you? It's in the rule book." And I pointed at the rule book. And he's like, "That's amazing." So he's like, "What can I do with it?" I'm like, "Whatever you want." He's like, "Can I hit him with his leg?" And suddenly both surrounding tables were just silent, and everybody's just staring at this kid waiting to see what happens. And I go to that section, and I'm showing him the rules, and one of the other tables is like, "Wait, you can beat someone to death with their own leg in this game?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can." 6 instant converts. Like every single one of them were like, this game is awesome. So that was my favorite teaching moment.
It's literally on the box set, guys. Come on.
I know. It was so amazing. We wouldn't
sell it to you if it wasn't true.
I know. It was so cool because they're just like, "We can do this?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." So that was fantastic. 6 people will be playing this game for the rest of their life. And that was my high point. I mean, my whole day was fantastic. Very, very busy. But that one I won't forget.
That's awesome. Like, I wish I had that level of fun.
Yeah, there wasn't a single point where I was not having fun doing this. Unlike you, like I had no stress. I was there working for CDT. I was there, spreading the love of BattleTech, and it was just 100% yay the whole time I was there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
So we go to bed. We wake up. What do? We do it all again.
That's right.
Okay, so we start day 3. It's another Alpha Strike day. It is the Wolfnet 350 day. So,
yep, and I'm barely waking up because I've got a headache. Too much fun Thursday night. Yeah,
that day was the one you essentially died on, right? We had to bring in the med techs. They had to shoot you through of adrenaline just to get you into bed.
It's good times, though. Totally worth it. I say, totally worth it.
Oh, man. So for those that don't know, the Wolfnet 350 format is the Alpha Strike format where you take essentially a roster of 350 PV and you play games at 200 PV. So I was taking a full 350 point roster of a Battlemaster 3M, a Kintaro 20, a Black Knight 9, a ShadowHawk 2HT, a Ryzen 101A, Mercury 99, an Ontos 7K, and an Ontos Heavy Tank 3053 upgrade. Those are all skill 4. I have a skill 2 Chaparral Missile Artillery Tank, 2 skill 7 Pegasus Scout Hover Tanks, unarmed, 2 skill 5 Space Marine Comm Guards Warship Fleet Marines, and 2 skill 6 Data Surveillance Specialist Comm Guards Battlefield Data Miners. And of course, to top that all off, I have a skill 4 Tornado Power Armor Light G13 Flamer Squad.
Don't forget the guns.
Don't forget the guns. So I've taken in that the max number of units and the max PV. So I've filled it out. Do you have any thoughts on that list? Just,
Does it have easy to break into 200 PV sections? Like how omni is it?
I'd say it's pretty omni. I mean, it has an entire page of like sub 10 PV squads. It has a couple hard hitters, like the Battlemaster and the Ontos are the same PV, so you can swap them independently. And
so if I hear it correctly, you've got 350, but for each battle you pick 200.
Yes.
Okay. So you get to see the mission first, and then choose your favorite 200 points for that particular mission.
Yes. So the other thing is for the 350 format is at a tournament, which this one was using their tournament rules, you get the mission, you then exchange that top list where it's just unit name, type, skill, and PV, and none of the unit cards are exchanged. So
it's a lot of hidden data.
It's a lot of hidden data. So if you have a broad, I don't want to say imagination, but a broad catalog of what units are and roughly what they do, like if you see ShadowHawk, you have a rough knowledge of what ShadowHawks can do.
Right, but some ShadowHawks do heat, some do not. Some have long range, some do not. Some have armor, some do not. So you've got to know all your ShadowHawks to know what somebody is bringing.
Yeah. So at that point is after you know the mission and exchange that top list portion is when you break your 200 down. So they recommend actually pre-breaking down the 200s, and this is where I was like, no, I'm going to look at the mission, look at the opponent, and then spend those 10 minutes building my 200 to...
Well, you can't look at the opponent's army, like his 200 first, right?
No, I get to look at his 350, his whole roster, and say, okay, I see he has, all helicopters and VTOLs.
Yeah, you're taking flak.
So I'm going to take flak. So I am list teching against my opponent as well as mission teching. And I think going into it, that was really key for me and my list. Like I didn't have a lot of specialized units, but I had a few tools where I'm like, okay, on the fast mission, I need to take X, Y, and Z. On the slow missions, I take A, B, and C. But also like, oh, they have an all clan list. Well, I'm going to take this because this is my anti-clan list unit, and that'll slot in. So, yeah, it was a lot of brain power for a tournament. I don't know if I would do that part again. But so, game 1, I roll up against Joel, and we are playing the stand-up fight, which is just kill the opponent. He is playing Clan Wolf. He's taking a Stone Rhino, a Shadow Cat, a Mad Cat, and a Nova. So
that's a solid list.
It's a solid list.
That's a lot of damage output.
Yeah, I took the Ontos, Ryzen, Chaparral, Scout, and I have what was it? And the Black Knight and the ShadowHawk. So that was my list. I tabled him. He did not kill a single of my units.
Wow. Was it like range or mobility? How did you how did you get away from taking any kills or any damages? He
overheated turn 1. He jumped, overheated some of my +2 or +3 guys, hit them a little bit, but at that point now he's up 2 heat for his next turn of shooting, which we're then getting everybody into medium range rather than just 1 or 2.
Right.
So I think he, like, to quote Fast and the Furious, too early, and he blew his nitrous like out the gate when he needed to hold that, because his Blackhawk can overheat for a lot of damage, but you save that for when you're like short range, your target hasn't moved, not okay, everyone's jumped,
not the opening salvo.
Yeah, so he did that at the opening salvo, and I kind of punished him for it. I got a lucky mobility hit on his Mad Cat with my Ontos, because 7 dice, one of them's going to be a 12, right?
Maybe, yeah.
And that's what it's there to do. So it legged the Mad Cat, and then I was like, cool, everybody's going after the Mad Cat to take it down now, because that reduced TMM made it real easy to cripple. I will say each of the Wolfnet maps had like a specific special terrain on them. Like this map was on the snow map, and they had snow with the snow rules for Alpha Strike, so you could get in and resync your heat.
Maybe that's what he was thinking with his overheating turn 1. You'll get it out of the way early and then go sink that heat.
I had to remind him of that on turn 3, so he was not thinking of that turn 1. But I will say I threw the Oscout out up faster, like farther up earlier. Like it was essentially my lead unit. So him trying to shoot the TMM4 Oscout, which has 5 health, he did some damage to it, but he wasn't killing it.
Right.
So, yeah, I kind of baited him. Also with the Intersphere Swarm list against the clan, elite list.
Right. There was a lot of... Well, so what was his skills? His skills are like 3s?
He had like 1 or 2 3s and the rest were 4s. But by the end of it, I had tabled him. So I had killed everyone and he had killed none of mine.
Well, alrighty then.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right. So my second game, I play Kin. And we're playing Capture the Flags. Ooh. I say flags, not one. There were multiple. There were 3 flags. There has to be. And he's using his Federated Sons. He took 2 Partisans, a Marauder, 2 Karnovs, 2 Infiltrator Battle Armor, and 2 Cavalier Battle Armor. And on this one, I took the Oscout, the Pegasus Hovercraft, the Data Miners, which are actually combat conventional infantry, but also 10-inch move hovercraft. So I essentially have a big hovercraft and a little hovercraft backing it up. The ShadowHawk, the Kintaro, and the Battlemaster.
Nice.
And my strategy on this is when he showed me his list, I was like, he's got 2 VTOLs and he's got 4 battle armor and he's got anti-air tanks. I'm like, this list is designed to swarm the objective turn 1 and grab it or don't. And I made the gamble on, okay, I just have to throw bodies to kind of contest the flags so he couldn't pick them up. And I was like, this Pegasus have 5 health. They get TMM 3, and the little guys can sprint and they'll get there and they've only got 2 health, but then he has to wipe, 7 hit points on each objective. And I was turn 1, he flies his Karnovs on, lands them on the objectives, deploys out. He outnumbers me, but he just doesn't have enough shots to actually push me off an objective.
Right.
So turn 2, I move all my guys up. Now I'm in shooting range, and he has to make the call, back off the Karnovs, because now they're just immobile on the ground, or fly away and just leave the battle armor to die.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it's not tough, but it's unfortunate.
So his battle armor dies, and I just slowly walk away with all of the objectives.
Now, Wolfnet doesn't have the one shot, right? It's got multiple shots for like if you got 7 damage, you do 7.
Oh yeah, they're doing multiple attack roll. Our favorite roll.
Right.
So none of my stuff on that has more than like 4 damage, but it's the fact of his whole list does, I want to say, like 8 damage, like 3 for the Partisans, 4 for the Marauder, and each battle armor does like 1 or 2 in short range.
Right. It's not a damage one. It's a grab the objective and go list.
Yeah. So he just didn't have anything to, you also can get on the objective turn 1. It's like, yes, I can. It's like, but you don't have any damage to push me off the objective. So I just ran the objectives back. I didn't table him. He still had the Karnovs and the Marauder and one of the Partisans at the end.
But you had the flags.
But I had the flags, so that's how it went.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on mission number 2.
Yeah. Game 3, I played Paul, and I played Paul in King of the Hill. And this was the one where I kind of tripped up a little bit. I looked at his list, but I didn't ask the right questions once we started playing. So I got a little confused at some stuff. But Paul brought 2 Sunderers, a Hunchback 2C, some kind of tank. I can't remember. I want to say maybe a Demolisher. It's like the 2-turret-y looking one.
I mean, the Demolisher has 2 barrels on one turret, but there is another one that has 2 turrets. I'd have to see it.
It's the 2 barrels on the turret going wide, but it didn't come into effect. Yeah, it had C3. I'll put it that way. He had 2 Capellan sniper teams. He had a Scout C3 VTOL and a Skill 2 teeny tiny hovercraft. So linked up in the C3 were the 2 Sunderers, the tank, and the Scout VTOL. So we had, a group of 4 with one of the Sunderers as the C3 master.
Right.
I did not understand that that the VTOL was also in the C3.
Right.
When I asked, he was like, it's spotting. And I was like, okay, so it's going to spot for the indirect. No, he meant it was C3 linked.
Right, it just has C3.
Yeah.
One of our listeners also has a VTOL with C3 that he uses very effectively. So, yeah, bad wording on that, but I understand what he's going for.
Yeah. Turn 1, I just throw my Scout right onto the objective and score the first point. And I'm putting a lot of long-range fire from my Black Knight, my Battlemaster, my Ryzen, and ShadowHawk, and I even brought the artillery tank on this one. So I really only had 6 units for this, because I actually expected him to put the smaller units to counter on the King of the Hill faster, but he was not. So It was just like, as long as I was throwing a guy onto the hill,
yeah, you were scoring.
I was scoring. I got a nice lucky crit on the Hunchback 2C early on. And he decided to, rather than try to counter the objective with the hovercraft, to charge me with it and do like 5 damage to my Black Knight. Which, it's the smart damaging move, but I feel like for each of these, it's like, okay, you're choosing to fight me rather than to play the mission.
Right. You gotta play the mission. I mean, We've done that before. We've talked about that ad nauseum.
Like, I'm not going to say his tactics were bad. They were not. Like, by the end of it, I only had the Ryzen left.
Right. But if you scored the more points, you weren't there to bring your people home. You were there to capture the hill.
Yep. So end of turn 4, I scored my 4 points, and I had overheated to blow the Sunderer off the objective.
Nice.
Because that was the first time he had set foot on the objective. And I was like, if I die, then you win the game. But if I kill you, then I win right now. So I had to throw all my dice, and I finally killed that Sunderer.
Nice. Nice. Way to risk it all.
Yeah. There was another point of confusion in this game where he was not adding the jump to the dice number. Like, he was adding a jump dice, but he was not adding the plus
2 for jumping.
Yeah, onto the dice number. He was like, oh no, but I jumped. You're supposed to know. I'm like, but some stuff has jump strong or jump weak.
Right.
So no, I need the whole number on the dice.
Yeah.
And that was one of those, like, that game kind of reminded me of, like, communication in those first 5 minutes is more important than anything else you do. Because me and him were, like, the first or 2 turns, we were just marking our dice completely differently, expecting the other person to be doing it how we were. I'm not used to people not adding the jumping number to their unit.
Right. Especially if you only have to show them the little brief thing and not the actual mech sheets. You don't know if a mech has jump strong or jump weak. Like, you just don't know.
Yeah. But so yeah, that was a nail biter. Like I said, I eked that one out, got my 4 points for another perfect score on that mission. But then we take lunch break. I grab one of the lovely $10 veggie chicken wraps from the concession stand.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the concession stand.
No, nobody is.
Not with that restaurant, like
Ugh.
like a 5-minute walk up the stairs.
We'll talk about that for our next day's game.
No kidding.
So for game 4, they put me against Chris Hesby, and we're playing bunkers. And on this one, we're playing on the stream, so you can actually watch this episode. I want to say recorded live, not live, but recorded live. So
we were live, but it was recorded.
There you go. So that's table 1. This map had the cool, had water, and I was like, oh, I'm playing on the map with the water features. This is great, because guess what I have? Lots of little hovercraft and hovercraft infantry.
Which don't care.
Which do not care. So Chris took a Dasher. He took 2 Sylph battle armors, one of my personal favorites. To quote, I wrote the book on Sylph battle armor. Now I'm going to sign it.
Nice.
He took a Dragonfly, a Prowler, and I want to say a Stormcrow, but I can't remember that exactly what it was. It was some clan medium mech.
Oh, we could check it out on the stream and find out.
Exactly. We went over that. For me, I took the Artillery and the Oscout pair, which is, by this point, I'm like, this works great. I love this. Because that's letting me do call down Artillery on a 6-up when it's tagged. I'm taking the Ontos. I'm taking the little guys, like the little infantry. I'm taking
all the hover guys.
All the hover guys and all the infantry. So that like section of like the cheap units, that's purely for this one mission. I'm taking the hovercraft entry, and the battle armor. And my last mechs are the Ryzen and the ShadowHawk, of course. So this is like low damage, high mobility list for me.
Right. And what is bunkers? Like it's called bunkers. What does that mean?
So each bunker has 20 health, or if you are able to put, and they essentially are facing, like they are only vulnerable if a unit is firing at their rear, and they're always facing your opponent. So you kind of have to like be on the opponent's side of the table looking back to do damage to them by shooting. Or you can just put any battle armor or infantry unit on the edge of the objective, and at that end of the turn, they go into the bunker, and next turn they come out and it's automatically destroyed.
Oh, all right.
So you can either do the damage route, or you can do the deploy infantry or battle armor route. So, what's it? So, turn 1, he runs up with his Dasher, and it has Sylph battle armor on it, and he goes into woods, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I land an Artillery right on the Dasher, killing it, and dropping the Sylph battle armor in the woods.
Sylph are VTOL, right?
Sylph are VTOL.
They don't land in woods very well, do they?
They do not. And he tried at next turn, he tried to do the like, oh, well, they VTOL up. And I'm like, no, you can't use VTOL movement in woods. And we had to get the TOs over. And this is something I've had to spend a long time figuring out. No, they can't take off from woods, and no, they can't land in woods. They get their 2 inches of regular battle armor, anything movement, and that's it.
That's right. They're on foot.
So they're on foot. And I was like, cool. I've taken out Sylph battle armor, like on the ground, essentially, before they could even take off. This is great. I don't know why he didn't just deploy them in VTOL mode, because I didn't have any flak.
But he didn't know that, because he can't look at your cheats.
No. It's just one of those things. I'm like, Sylph battle armor are self-propelled almost. Like, they don't need a Dasher. The Dasher,
I know. You don't mount your Sylph on mechs at all. I've never seen you do that.
No, because you're paying for the 10 inches of VTOL movement. Which means they can move 15, the Dasher moves 20, but the Dasher is a much more fragile unit.
Right.
Yeah, because the Sylphs get a TMM of 4, and the Dasher gets a TMM of 4. And one of those has 4 health, the other one has 2.
So he's off to a bad start.
He's off to a bad start. Like, he played great, but he's off to a bad start. I think he killed one of my like super little infantry hover dudes, and I was like, that's fine. I've got so many on the board at this point that I'm actually like, letting him pick them off rather than shoot my damage dealers. I kill his Blackhawk. I kill, or not his Blackhawk. I kill his Viper. His Prowler gets around the Oscout and gets some good lucky damage on it. And he deploys the Sylph right behind my Oscout, so I can't like see them. And I was like, great. I'm going to pull a pro gamer move, and I call in artillery on my same Oscout because I don't have line of sight because it's behind me.
Right.
But I have line of sight on myself.
Right.
And it's a 2-inch little pie plate. And I was like, guess what? Your Sylph battle armor takes 2 damage, and your mech takes 2 damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's how that works.
So
and your Oscout takes 2 damage, but okay.
He was already dead because I had won initiative. So he'd already had to declare, kill the Oscout. I was like, okay, what does the Oscout get to do? Well, I could put artillery anywhere, or I could put it on myself and do 4 damage.
Yeah.
That's a worthy trade.
Oh no, that's the move for sure.
Yeah. So we all play. I get 2 of his bunkers in his back, and I'm now moving back to like get his closest to the midfield bunker.
Mm-hmm.
And he only has 1 unit left. And that's when I have to look at the score and see, okay, if I killed your last unit, the game ends, but I want to kill the bunker to get the maximum points.
And it's weird that if you kill his unit and table him, you aren't considered killing the bunkers because you could do that at your leisure at that point.
Correct. That's one of those like weird contentions where this is a game that can't or shouldn't go to that rule, but apparently it's come up multiple times where someone has just died too fast for the other person to score.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So I actually hold my shots. So his last unit, his Dragonfly or something, has like 1 health left on it. And he's like, he decides to death run above my Ontos to do enough damage to himself to kill his unit to stop me from getting another turn in.
I mean, he could have just said, I eject, right? But I think DFing the Ontos is the more honorable way to go.
Yeah, I don't know. There's 2 ways to look at it. Is it honorable when, it's like I kill myself to end the game, or,
to deny the opponent an objective or points? I mean, like you're playing the mission there. That's he's playing the rules of the mission to keep you from getting points. So yes, it like trying to take out the Ontos for fun, I think is the better way to do it. But I think he would have been justified either way.
I mean, he's justified. It's just one of those like, okay, do I get my 4 points? And Tio's like, no, because he's all dead. You have to end the game on this turn. I was like, well, fine.
I mean, if that's the rules, go complain about the rules at that point.
Exactly. So I got that one 3-1 rather than 4-1. I'm only slightly salty.
Yeah, it happens.
It was still a great game, and you can watch all of it. And for my last game, I play Polly the D and Cat. Paul and his wife was hanging out around there, and she came by. 2 lovely, great people. It was excellent playing them last game. So we played Domination, which is like 5 objectives, 2 on your side, 2 on the opponent's side, and 1 in the middle. And
right, okay.
You can capture each one, and you can move off it and it's still captured. And the game ends when someone has 4 of them.
So, go Swarm.
Go Swarm, which is what the Intersphere list does great. Paulie took 2 J. Edgar hover tanks, 2 Drillson hover tanks, a Warhammer, I want to say it was an Avatar, and some regular infantry. I took my Chaparral, the Oscout, just because I'm having such a great time with it. I take the Kintaro for this one because I'm like, okay, I need a little speed and a little armor.
And I haven't heard the Kintaro, like Kintaro's been there for what, 1 mission?
Kintaro's been there for the Capture the Flag mission because that's my it moves 10 inches and it gets TMM of 2.
But it does damage.
It also does 4 damage. So it's like, if I need a little bit tankier, a little bit faster than the Black Knight, I take the Kintaro. If I need more shooty, just pure damage, I just take the Black Knight.
Nice.
So that's the unit where I'm swapping it depending on a mission. So I take my medium fast boy list and all the infantry, And I swear, even Paulie was like, you have hit each of my TMM4 hovercraft, and you have motive critted them each and every time. Like 10 up, 11 up, 10 up. Like, I felt bad. But all of his hovercraft were either getting immobilized on the center objective or right next to it. And then next turn, I would just kill it.
Yeah, because it can't move.
Yeah. That was a very what?
Like it's oops. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I will stop rolling 11. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's like I can't help it. And he was like, "No, you're fine." He had the high ground with his Warhammer and his other like heavy mech, his Avatar. So he was just looking down, shooting me, but I was still able to like move and reduce like his damage by like half just from the range and everything. So his hovercraft were the ones trying to get the objectives, but because they kept getting motive critted, they kept dying.
Yeah, that's rough.
So I win that one by getting a lucky 1 damage onto his immobilized hovercraft in the middle. The Oscout jumps to his far objective, which I had just cleared. And yeah,
that's 4.
And at the end of that turn, I had 4 objectives, and it's like, game ends. So yeah, Paulie and Cat were excellent to play. Great game to finish off on. Trying to think. Yeah, so that was 5 games. And at this point, I realized, oh man, I've won 5 in a row. Nobody defeated me.
Yeah, but you only got 3 points on that 4th one. So how good are you really?
Not great.
Really?
Not great. I'll put it that way. But yeah, so I won the best overall for the Wolfnet 350 Avstrike event.
Congratulations.
I know. And I got best painted.
You shouldn't be able to get both.
Personally, I shouldn't be able to, but they gave it to me.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, so I guess so. I've won Southern Assault once, and I've won Nova.
You got an actual trophy for this one, didn't you?
I got 2 trophies for this one.
Yeah, but this is your first trophy from BattleTech.
The Southern Assault one.
Oh, did you get a trophy from that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just Nova didn't have trophies.
Oh, just Nova.
Just Nova. Yeah, so I get the cool Adepti-Khan, which is like the cog with the skull on it, which says best overall.
Super awesome.
And then I get the Wolfnet Crystal Trophy, which
nice
for Adepticon 2023. Yeah, P.S. TSA really doesn't know what trophies are because they like flagged my entire luggage, and
that may have been actually my fault. They may have flagged your name, not your luggage. That could have just been the excuse they gave you.
I had Dan from Listening to Paint Dry, like literally behind me when I was leaving, just like watching them rip through my suitcase. Like, what's this? I'm like, it's a trophy. And they're like, this is a metal cog. This is not a trophy. I'm like, it's for Adepticon.
Like, doesn't it say something on it if you flip it over on the back?
Yeah, they're not.
Doesn't it have a plaque on it?
It's TSA. We could wax poetic about that forever. They're not Kamosha or anything. But yeah, so that was a good 1 day of Alpha Strike. Those were all good games. Those are all tight. I was a little confused about the scoring sheets, but that's just because I don't really know what margin of victory is, like, which is subtracting how much they killed versus how much you killed.
Right. Essentially,
so on those games where nobody wins, or it's a tie or whatever, they can have a tiebreaker on. Okay, you killed more.
It's how many points versus how many points.
Yeah.
But they don't want to list the points. They just want to know the difference in the 2 numbers. That's all they're interested in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was that game. And yeah.
So that was day 3. So, well, I mean, it sounded interesting. I got to see some of it from a table or 2 away. Everybody seemed to be focusing a lot. So I didn't hear anything horrible about it.
No.
So I assume it was pretty good. A lot less issues than the BTCC had from, at this point. But I think they've been doing it longer as well.
This was much more well run, much more like, hey, even before we started rolling dice, they were like, hey, we have 2 new rules for this event just because we're still learning from like LVO when they did that. And they're like, you can't put terrain that touches both corners. So terrain can only touch one map corner. So essentially you couldn't block units in or make it impossible to get to objectives. And I was like,
right.
I appreciate that. I appreciate being willing to change things on the fly and not have them come to a vote or anything, or like no one get upset. You just, the TO's making the call and everyone has to deal with it. I prefer that rather than what happened with the BTCC Alpha Strike one the day before, which was, hey, let's have a vote. Does anyone want to change it to single attack roll or keep it as multiple damage roll?
No, yeah, you don't want to do votes. You just want to tell people. Don't give them a choice in a tournament setting like this. You tell them what's going on. Don't ask them, because if you ask them, somebody is going to get their way and somebody is not going to get their way, and that's going to make bad feelings already before anything has even started. And that's not the way to go. Yeah. So my day 3, I had a fun thing to watch every single day. On this particular one, on the grinder, I watched our Discord Tweezer. He did a DFA on a unit and knocked it down a hill, which slid down a hill and ran into another mech, knocking it over as well. So we had a very nice DFA domino effect. It was quite humorous.
That's a lot of displacement rules that the average player doesn't know.
It was a lot, and it was fun, and it was so much fun that like the whole table was cheering, which was fantastic. So I believe Tweezer earned one of his little black medallions for something truly awesome happening at the table during a grinder. But that was a lot of fun to watch, and it was super cool.
And that's the day that Steve, our friend, was doing his 8 hours of grinder.
Yeah. He got there early, and he was there all day.
And he left late.
I think he only switched mechs once that day, I think, or maybe he got some at the end, but he was there for like a good 6 hours on the starting mech, which shouldn't happen ever. It means you're doing it wrong, Steve.
He's very lucky at staying alive, very unlucky about killing things.
He had a lot of kills stolen from him early on. A lot.
Look, I didn't say that.
I was there.
I watched it with my own 2 eyes. But yeah, so... Oh, man, I don't even remember what we had for dinner day 3. Oh, no, I went to Benihana. That's what I did.
Benihana?
Yeah,
Nice.
I'd never been, so I was like, let's try this randomly well-known commercial restaurant.
I think I've only heard of Benihana from like TV shows.
That's right. That's like why I was like, Benihana is an actual thing. I thought it was like a joke, like, Carl's Jr.'s or something, like something that doesn't actually exist.
Carl Jr.'s totally exist.
I don't believe you. So I had Benihana, had my victory dinner. It was great.
Nice.
Wake up. We got day 1 of Classic, also known as day 4 of the con / day 3 of tournaments.
Also known as Saturday.
So this is the
At this point, I had no idea what day of the week it was. No idea at all.
Honestly, though, I'm just like, bring which mechs, and they're all labeled like in Ziploc bags. Like, these are your Saturday mechs, Josh. It's like, okay, dump them out on the table. Flip card over to win.
Catalyst had sold out most of their stuff already. So things were winding down. We were running out of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so my list for the Classic, this was using modified BTCC rules because they had changed from LVO to now, and there's a whole lot of drama about that because nobody really knew who uploaded this version to Adepticon. The TOs had a lot of questions, and will say this, even the TOs did not seem enthusiastic about running it, but they felt / the Catalyst demo team felt like there was not enough time to make all the changes. So they were just running it as it had been uploaded.
There's no way that they didn't know that it needed changes before it went here. We've been talking about it for over a month.
Oh, I know that. That was just all what they told me.
I understand. And I'm telling you that as a CDT agent and having the BTCC called the CDT format, I still have not been invited to a meeting or asked any questions or asked for input at all. So I don't know which CDT they're talking about, but it's not mine.
It's not yours. But yeah, so this is just like the Alpha Strike one where you get your 6 battlefield support points. You can only do one of each one, so you can only have one like one strike, one bombing, one air support, one artillery, blah blah. You have 7,000 BV. There is no limit to what like gunnery and piloting skill, so you can go 0-0, you can go 8-0, you can go 0-8.
You can even go 8-1, can't you, Josh?
You can, and yeah, so my list for this one, let's just go right into it.
All right. What did you take?
So I'm taking a Black Knight 18, the new... Oh, I should say, the list restrictions were it had to be either in the free record sheets downloaded from the Catalyst site or the new rec guides, 1 through whatever, 31, 32.
Some of those rec guide mechs are really good, too.
Some of them are. So I will say that was like the big draw. Like I wasn't going to do this if it was just the free record sheets. Like I'll be completely honest. I'm not interested in playing Succession War Clan Invasion with only 2 or 3 options for each mech chassis. But that's a personal thing that I have. That's a problem I have to get over.
You're growing so much, Josh. We're proud of you.
I am. All right. So I'm taking that Black Knight 18, which is essentially the regular Black Knight 6, but with all clan tech. So it's got a clan targeting computer, clan ER PVC, 2 ER larges, 4 ER mediums, and a small pulse laser.
And the heat sinks to fire some of it.
It has, 34 heat sinking ability, I want to say, roughly. I'm probably wrong on that, but it essentially I can fire the PVC and the 2 ER large lasers, and if I'm not moving or not moving very fast, I'm heat neutral.
Right. Yeah, it's a fire all the long or fire all the short.
Yeah.
Like most Black Knights.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, I'm taking an upgraded thing that I've already mastered.
Right.
But my next unit, I'm taking the ShadowHawk 6D, which has a re-engineered laser. I should roll back. So I'm taking that Black Knight at a gunnery 4 and piloting 4 because I don't want it to fall down. And I'm not as worried about it hitting because it has a targeting computer. And that's a whopping 2,844 BV.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Next one is the ShadowHawk 6D. That is a gunnery 3, piloting 5. That is a 585 movement profile. So it actually jumps the full 5.
Nice.
It has a re-engineered large laser, a re-engineered medium laser. I want to say like a small pulse laser, some little laser gun. And
the re-engineered lasers are the ones that ignore special armor types, right?
Correct. And they have a native -1 to hit. So they're like right in between pulse and regular. And it has an MML5 with 2 tons of ammo. So next mech is a Ryzen 101C, and that is at gunnery 3, piloting 4 for 1833 BV. That one has a large pulse laser, a 3 ER medium lasers, and a Streak SRM6.
Nice.
And that's one that I've done really well with like locally, so I felt pretty confident. If I'm jumping, I just shoot the large pulse and the streaks. Occasionally it hits, occasionally it doesn't. But it's always, roughly heat neutral if I'm just doing that.
It's always a threat.
It's always a threat. My last mech is an Oscout 7K, a returning favorite from my Alpha Strike list.
Right, but interestingly enough, like the weapons this sucker is armed with, it's so amazing.
Oh, so amazing. What does it have, Denham?
I believe it has tag.
And that's it. So the Oscout just has tag, so I dumped the gunnery skill to gunnery 8. And
hey, you're allowed. It's in the rules.
And I sent that sucker to college to get piloting skill 1. Guess what? It's now cheaper than a 4-5 Oscout.
But it's out there for a reason.
Yes. So the reason is A, it can do any physical attack on like essentially a 3-up or a 4-up.
If it jumps, right.
Yeah, and it's great for that. Like it can do that from above on like a 2-up.
Well,
depending on this pilot enemy target skill, like
most of their pilots are like a 4, so you're already getting a -3 on your DFA for that, which counteracts the jump. So your target number should be a 1 because you ignore terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should not be able to miss most DFAs.
P.S. I missed one of the few pushes I did, and I felt so stupid because I tried to push someone off an objective with it, and I still missed.
Aww.
And I was like, you had one job, Oscar. You literally had one job. Outside of this job, which is taking my unit of Inner Sphere Standard Battle Armor, Magnetic, Squad 4, Gunnery 8, Piloting
anywhere
2.
it wants.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm not paying for machine guns. Like, I don't care who you are. I'm taking for either armor, objective, or just another initiative sync. Like, I don't need them. I would put guns on the Oscat if I could, or add more armor. I guess the closest I'll do is just add battle armor. So
I think that's a good choice.
So I have 5 units, and I'm exactly at 7,000 BV.
Cool.
Because there's nothing I love more than being efficient. We don't waste any BV in this house. Alrighty, so game 1, I'm playing Ted, and this is just the kill the enemy, and the scoring for this is not great. I don't love it already. If I cripple an enemy mech, it's the BV divided by 100, and if I destroy it, it's BV divided by 100 plus BV divided by 100. So essentially plus times 2, or
double
BV divided by 50.
Divided by 50, yeah.
There's 3 ways you can do it, but they specifically wanted you to BV divided by 100, round that, and then do that again. And I'm like, your scoring is bad, and you should feel bad. Also, would you believe me if I told you they were not doing this with laptops or computer technology? They had a calculator and doing it by hand.
At least they had a calculator.
I hope so. Anyways, so I don't love that because it's a max.
It's more error, more room for human error for one.
Yeah.
If you're making it too complex. But it's weird. It's weird.
I say that because if I kill the entire enemy force, I've scored 140 points. But the max I can score is 100. So that means even I don't need to kill my entire opponent to get the max score, which means there's going to be a lot of ties.
A lot, yep.
A lot of ties. So we already asked them, it's like, hey, are you doing this by winning or tying? Because killing the units was worth 40 points in all of the other missions. And they were like, we're doing this by points because that's just how we have to do this. It's like,
maybe they were hoping for like everybody ties, yay.
Yeah, I mean that would have been better. So I was just like, okay, going into this, I know a little bit more information about how the missions are scored, how the games are going to be recorded, and all that. So, game 1, I get placed on the lunar map against Ted. It is just killing, and I'm going up against a Stone Rhino, a Black Hawk, and a Horned Owl.
Wow, just 3, huh?
Just 3. But I mean, that Stone Rhinos are worth at least 2.
Oh no, that Stone Rhino is vicious.
That had 2 Gauss rifles and 2 large pulse lasers with AES in the arms.
Oh, it's that variant. Yeah, the red guy.
Variant.
Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah, so that was nasty. I did not enjoy that. Do not recommend. I missed so many PPCs on like 5, 6 ups that I was like, I'm paying for half of a Black Knight that I'm not using.
Hey, the odds were bound to catch up to you at some point. Ask Mr. How can you not roll? Like, you've rolled nothing but 11s on what, day 3?
Yeah.
So.
I won initiative like every turn that game, except like 2. But I still couldn't hit the easy shots. Not complaining, just stating.
Yeah.
So I got very lucky. I critted out the Stone Rhino's leg and hit the pilot, so it was crippled and essentially couldn't stand up. So it was essentially out of the game. But then I had to deal with the Black Hawk and the Horned Owl.
Right.
I will say I did not like force withdrawal being hard restricted in these games, because force withdrawal is not written well enough for, I want to say, competitive game format. Like they were using force withdrawal. I think
it was designed for like speeding up narrative games anyway. But we know, like from our previous podcasts, that's the problem we're having is that BattleTech itself isn't designed for a tournament format, and it needs an overhaul to make it work smoothly. That hasn't been done. Therefore, this isn't going to go smoothly, period. Like it's just, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So if you got, damage in 3 of your limbs or 2 of your torso locations or sensor hits or blah, whatever, you had to start walking backwards to your home edge. If you didn't leave by the time the game ended, that unit was counted as destroyed. The problem is it's not that big of a points difference. Like if the max you can score is 40 kill points, you might as well just move back 1 and stay shooting.
Right.
Yeah, so I win that one. None of my guys are in force withdrawal, thankfully, so I win that one flawlessly, if I remember right. And then I go on to game 2. And then we had, of course, another hiccup, because you can't play Josh without having a hiccup. So I'm playing David, and we're playing I place an objective on my side, and you place an objective on your side, and whoever has more units there gets to control it, and you get points. It's pretty simple. David is taking a Kharidan Lance. He's got 2 Wolverine 7Ks, a Thug, an Urban Mech, and a Mongoose. That's,
like, as a Kharida player, just from looking at that seems like a deadly list. Like 2 Wolverine 7Ks sounds vicious.
They are. And the problem is that when he was like, okay, we can switch to alternate ammunitions on this, he's like, I'm taking smoke rounds for the SRMs. And I was like, smoke rounds are not allowed. So I had to call the TO over, and he's like, no, smoke rounds are allowed because they're in tech manual. And I was like,
they're not.
They're not in tech manual. I had to literally whip out tech manual.
Yeah, we just did that. Like they're in the alternate stuff. Yeah.
So I literally had to go and whip out tech manual and be like, tech manual has harpoon. It does not have smoke missiles.
Does not have smoke. Yeah, it does not.
Because I was not willing to play an objective map with 2 Wolverines that could put down smoke anywhere they want.
Right.
Felt like a dick. It really, of course, put the game kind of on that weird feeling right out the gate. But I was like, look, I'm not fighting smoke rounds. That's not we're not keeping track of 12 hexes that have smoke in them.
Well, when you fire smoke, though, they only last 3 turns, but still, you've got to track them for 3 turns.
Yeah, and I'm not doing that. So we go. I put my Black Knight up high because I feel like while it's Rollis Brawler, I'm like, no, you're my only sniper with the long range weapons.
It's your half sniper, yeah.
Half sniper, exactly. I'll admit, I didn't really do well, like, combat-wise in this mission. He outnumbers me. It took me, 4 turns to get onto his objective, and he had already, gotten his... he had tried to get his... He had a Wolfhound also as well. Yeah, he had the full 6. 2 Wolverines, Thug, Urbanet, Mongoose, and a Wolfhound. So he also brought a Wolfhound. And I don't remember it because turn 2, it gets next to my objective, right outside the capture zone, and I leg it completely.
Yeah.
I was quite happy on that lucky legging.
Yeah, Wolfhound is a little bit slow for its weight.
Yeah. So I kill it, essentially, knock it out of the game, and it's just there near my objective, but not contesting. So I'm trying to fight the Wolverines. The Wolverines have too much mobility and too much armor for me to really put them down.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, and I'm sure that Mongoose wasn't leaving you alone either.
It was actually trying to stay alive more than it was trying to fight me. It and one of the Wolverines, after they had picked off the Raijin, Like, the Ryzen was so close to being forced withdrawal so early on that I was not playing it aggressively anymore. It's just like, jump to heavy woods, like, just stay alive and don't get forced withdrawal. But the other Wolverine and the Mongoose were going against the Black Knight, because Black Knight's not as mobile.
Right.
I put the Mongoose, the Battle Armor, and the Ryzen all on. I had dropped off the Battle Armor onto my objective as someone to just hold it, and then put the Mongoose and the Ryzen. Nope, I'm sorry. I put the Oscout and the Ryzen onto his objective to kind of counter score.
Right.
I had dropped a BSP. I had invested all of my points on a single Long Tom, which perfectly scored a hit on his Urban Mech. It
Ouch.
did not kill the Urban Mech. I was quite angry.
It's got some armor. Yeah.
Quite angry, because I was like, oh man, that'd be great, because it was a perfect hit, and now we'd have to force withdrawal. Nope, I had to get in there and finish it off old school. And honestly, if this game had gone on like 2 more turns, I would not have won. It was just because I was on objectives and holding the objectives that I was able to eke it out. He was not able to actually kill anything of mine, which is kind of ironic. Like, it was a low killing game, just like we were constantly maneuvering.
Right.
So, great game. I don't love these missions with the objectives, because the objectives are 2 levels high, which means if your opponent is on the opposite side and you're on the other side, then you can't see each other. So there's the objective shouldn't stop combat like that, in my opinion.
So they were like level 2 buildings?
They were level 2 buildings that you could not walk on top of.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And guess what? That really screws me in game 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I won game 2. I move on. I play. I'm gonna be honest. This guy was kind of a dick, and not just like dick player, but dick personality. And this really put a souring on my enjoyment of Classic. Like, he was very much an old school player. And there was one moment where I was like, oh, I didn't realize that you were in woods. Would you mind if I took my shots back to shoot the easier target? And he said, this is a tournament, so no. And I'm like,
I mean, you did ask.
You're technically correct, but you're also an asshole. Like, the fact that he was like, do the math. And I was like, I hit on a 12. And he's like, yeah, so you can still technically hit it. I was like, I would have just shot the thing over there. That's much easier. I thought you were in clear terrain. So,
well, you know, the revenge on that would be if you rolled a 12.
I mean, I got some 12s on this game. So I played, I'm not going to name names because honestly, I just didn't enjoy playing them. But this was King of the Single Hill. So you had a single level 2 objective in the middle, and if you were within 2 hexes of that, you scored. And you just had to have more units on that. They took a Nova, a Hunchback 2C with the heavy large lasers, and 2 spiders. The Nova and the Hunchback 2C were at Gunnery 2 skill, Pilot skill 5. So this was an all damage list.
Right. Yeah, because if the Hunchback 2Cs takes enough damage to fall over, it's probably internal anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's a Hunchback 2C.
Exactly. The problem is they got onto the objective, and because you couldn't see around it, we couldn't see each other for like half the turns. And then like I finally crippled one. I was like, oh, well, I've lost my leg and I'm not standing up. And it's like, you're in forced withdrawal. He's like, I don't have to stand. I can choose not to stand if it would damage me. And I was like, once again, this is why forced withdrawal should not be in an official tournament rule, because he's there, he's on the objective, he's scoring, he's in forced withdrawal, he can't move, his pilot is conscious, but has the 4 hits.
the way to fix that is if the rule is if you're in forced withdrawal, you can't score objectives. Like that's That's a common rule I've seen plenty of times.
And we got a TO to come over for that, and they said, you're still scoring unless you're shut down or destroyed. And I was like, I hate this format, I hate this mission, and I hate that it's level 2, because I just couldn't get around to see him because he'd always either block sight. And I'm like, it wasn't like he was a bad player. It's just, okay, on top of the, hey, can I see you? And he's like, no. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to shoot this target. He's like, you already declared that target. I was like, I'm not trying to play that way. This is day 3 of my games.
Yeah.
I'm stating everything I'm doing. You are not. Like at one point I asked him, I was like, is there anything I've done to offend you? And they're like, no. I was like, you say that, but I feel like it. They also stopped me and they're like, hey, you're rolling your SRM 6. You need to dictate on how you're going to identify your roll, because you're rolling all 6 pairs at once. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you need to pick which pair. When you roll them, you have to pick the rightmost or the leftmost pair and work your way in. I was like, that's not a rule, man. That is not a rule.
That's not a rule. Show me that in the rules.
Exactly. So I'm like, at this point, I'm just not having fun playing this opponent, and I don't even care. So I lose by like 10 points, and I'm like I said, I don't care, because the winning, losing doesn't matter. It's just the scoring points. And I scored pretty well. So game 4, I played Josh, and Josh was great. Because I'm also
okay, in my mind, I see a mirror propped up on the other side of this board, and Josh having the best time of his life, finally facing off against a worthy opponent.
We're playing for Best Josh here, my favorite award. So Josh brought 2 Dashers, one of the new Callisto battle armor, the Nova Cat with all of the ATMs, and a Night Jeer. The problem is this mission was the place 3 objectives, but the attacker gets to place 2 and the defender gets to place 1, or vice versa. And you just have to be next to them to destroy them. And they're also like level 2 line of sight blocking. So I won the roll off. So I chose I'm going to place 2 objectives, and I place them on my side. He places the other one on his. He gets to destroy that one. But by that point, I had destroyed both of his Dashers. I had BSP'd, airstriked his, or bombed his battle armor. I had jumped behind his Nova Cat and got an ammo explosion. And his Night Jeer was like 1 turn away from the same thing. So by like turn 4, he concedes. Not for his fault of playing, but because there was no way he could get to my objective, spend to the 3 turns to rack up like turn to destroy points to destroy each objective, and then kill me. And he was just like, no, this mission is just weighted toward you. And I was like, no, I agree.
Yeah, that was a weird, you win initiative roll and you get to place 2 of the 3 objective things. Yeah.
So I was like, I don't like asymmetric missions. He agreed. I was like, this is not a good mission. He was like, this is not you. This is not you. You did exactly what you should have done. I was like, I appreciate that. Also feel bad that I just like crossed the map on a 11 up leg your Dasher. I'm like, Dasher's dead.
Oops.
Jump behind Nova Cat, 1 large pulse laser, ammo explosion.
That is rough.
Unfortunately, that's classic. I hate to say.
Well, I was going to say that's BattleTech for you. It's another reason why it's hard to do tournaments with BattleTech is because it does rely on dice. So there is quite the luck factor involved, which helps eliminate the skill factor. It just happens. You could have a bad rolling day, and it doesn't matter how good you are tactically. The dice just aren't in your favor, and you're going to lose through no fault of your own.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, I'm like, I finally have like a little break, and I finally get to see the vendor hall for like the first time. It was amazing. I was like, oh man, I finished early. This is great.
That's right. We had the bison meatballs with the blueberry sauce.
Yeah.
That day. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I finally get a chance to see the vendor hall and eat dinner
That restaurant is amazing.
Because this was the 12-hour day. This game day started at 10 in the morning and ended at 10 at night.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was terrible. That was awful. I will never do that again.
So how'd you end up doing overall?
I got 4th place in that, which I thought was respectable. The first place in that was Jeff Stone, and I have the top 3 list here, actually. Jeff Stone won first place with a Gunnery 4 Piloting 4 Awesome. Gunnery 4 Piloting 4 Thug 11E, a 4-4 Awesome 8Q, a 4-4 Crab 27, a 4-5 Mongoose 67, a second 4-5 Mongoose 67, and a 4-5 Mercury 98. So
nice.
they went all in on the speed and damage, which I thought was cool because they could flood the board with units that weren't going to die to like a bombing BSP or anything, but also could like hold an objective and like swap out with TMM units. Second place.
Speed is key.
Speed was key in this. Getting on those objectives turn 1 gave you like 10, 20 point lead just out the gate. So having like that, I don't even care if it like you're taking an 8-8 Mercury that could run, 20 or Dasher or whatever. Just get onto an objective. That's all that mattered.
Get those early points and get that high TMM.
My Oscout that could jump 8 was not fast enough. Second place was James Clifford. He took a Gunnery 3 Piloting 5 Awesome 11H, the 3-5 Wolverine 7K, a 4-5 Crab 27, a 3-5 Spider 9M, and a 3-6 Mercury 105. So actually a very similar list to the first place.
Again, speed.
Speed and some good damage dealers, but good armor. And third place was Will Donta. You'll also know them as Vaporlock on the Discord.
Vapor
won third place. Vapor took a 4-4 Stalker 9F, a 3-4 Viper, Dragonfly, I should say, a 3-4 Mist Lynx L, a Elemental 3s with AP Gauses at 3-5, 4-4 Elemental 3s with Flamers, and a third squad of 4-4 Elemental 3s with Flamer. So he took the take 3 mechs, take 3 battle armor route.
Yep.
And I'll admit, that's hard to do when you've got 7,000 BV to play with.
Well, apparently it worked out for him. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. That's it for the BTCC Classic event. I have my last day.
Well, hold on. I still got my play of the day for day 4.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So on day 4, on that Saturday, I think the coolest one thing that I saw, a Jenner had taken a firing position on a level 5 building. Mm-hmm. So it was like way up there, and it was just shooting because it's a grand melee type of thing. So people were all over the place, and it's just pegging people with 20 points of damage every turn. And a tarantula comes up behind the building and kicks the level 5 building hex that it's on after it had fired that round, but then kicked it to knock the CF factor just below the weight of the Jenner, which of course made that level 5 building collapse, and the Jenner fell all the way down on its back, and got to all of its engine destroyed and exploded. So you've got this level 5 building with this Jenner right in the middle, and it falls down, and just the whole building goes into that demolition explosion type thing, and it was amazing. So that was my play of the day for Saturday.
No, that sounds awesome.
It was amazing.
I forgot to mention Wednesday night keep saying Wednesday night. This is Saturday.
This Saturday.
I don't even have day of the week anymore. It's just third event. So Saturday we go out to dinner with Anthony Scroggins, art director for Catalyst Game Labs.
That is true. I had a Frosty with him.
Yeah, I had a delicious vanilla Frosty from Wendy's with him. We got to look at a few of the new sculpts in person, got to talk with him. It was fun. It was great.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Was there anything like all of our listeners would love to hear about our time with Anthony. I was kind of mentally brain dead, so
we got to see a bunch of stuff that they won't get to see for a year, so they can be jealous. But I don't think we learned any secrets or anything.
No, we just wanted to hang
willing
out,
to admit
talk,
to.
Chill. It was real chill.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I was in tournament mode, not interview mode.
Yeah, no, and he wasn't there to interview either. We were just talking. He had some good stories. We had some good stories. We just had a good time. We made a friend. How about that?
There you go. We did ask what was his least favorite unit to do that he had to do. I can't remember which one.
I don't even remember that question.
Was it the pikes? It might have been the pike.
No, it wasn't the pike.
It's one of the mechs.
Yeah, it was definitely a mech.
Kingfisher with a Cylon head.
I know that he did not want it to be a Cylon head. That was his big thing. Most of the stuff he's very, very proud of. So,
yeah. But no, that was awesome. We'll eat milkshake / Frosties in his hotel room with him again. 10 out of 10.
Yep, definitely.
All right. Now we go to Sunday, the last day of the event. This is the Classic Open tournament, which is you choose from different selections of mechs, essentially.
Right. And this was Sunday. This is the day that I woke up. I packed to get ready to leave, and then I went downstairs.
Oh, man. It must have been nice to do that. I get there.
It was stressful.
Steve heads over. He plays the grinder table. I swear it was like watching one of those guys at the Plinko machines in Vegas.
Oh, that was going to say like the grinder is 1000% BattleTech pachinko. It is pachinko for sure.
Roll dice, get tokens.
If they had allowed smoking in there, that's all you would have seen is people like Steve just in there with the with their little hat on and just 2 packs of cigarettes next to them, just putting another steel ball in.
The man was just after a hit. Literally, He just wanted one hit, one good weapon hit. Oh, man. So I'm doing the open tournament. I saw a lot of return faces from the classic tournament the day before, which makes complete sense considering it's the other classic event. I felt like I was the only person that did all the Alpha Strike events and all the classics. And I was like, oh, I'm the only face I recognize from all the days. Which I would hope so, because it's my face. I know what you're thinking, Denham.
This is why Josh should not be allowed to go to multiple day tournaments.
Yeah. So they put out the list of mechs you could choose, and I got a weird vibe right out the gate because they did not have mechs the physical representations of that mech, which I was a little surprised that's not how they were doing it.
I think that's how they originally intended for it to be, but they couldn't do it.
And that, I don't want to say it detracted from my game experience, but if I go to an event and you hand me a list of you can choose from these, pairs of mechs, because each one was a pair of mechs, and there were 6 different pairs you could choose from, and they did not have any of those units. And I was like,
yeah, even at the grinder tables, which they were there for, we had run out of prizes. They're I don't know what to give people. They were opening up a game of Armored Combat boxes and just giving the mechs out of those boxes and the Clan Invasion boxes. We were out of everything, just out of everything.
Yeah, so they didn't have any of the mechs. They were just taking grinder mechs and here's 2 grinder mechs. Just call them whatever is closest. So for the first group of mechs, essentially it was one very short range light mech, and then a medium damage heavy or assault mech. I was like, okay, I choose the Firestarter at a Gunnery 3, Piloting 4, and the Victor 9A at Gunnery 4, Piloting 4. And I'm fighting a Vulcan Tims 3.5 and Warhammer 6L 3.5. And I was like, okay. At this point, they hand out the sheets. And I'm like, What's a Victor? Oh my God, this Victor has no armor at all. Sir, there's no armor on this assault mech. And you're like, sir, that's
just staple the fire starter to it.
The fire starter has more armor than the Victor.
Yeah, that's why you staple it to the front.
I did, essentially. I was like, hey, fire starter, guess what? You're the assault mech. You have to tank the Warhammer. That's the 3-5. That was messed up.
It's kind of a shame that mechs can't block shots from each other.
The game would be completely different if you could.
Yeah.
So I did not win the initiative like for the first 5 turns. So I'm playing extremely conservatively against this guy. So I'm like, oh, that Warhammer's got 2 PPCs. Guess what my longest range weapon is? Oh, I don't know. Literally everything at 9 hexes.
Nice.
Yeah, so I picked 2 short range mechs and he picks a long range. I stood still behind a pile of woods. He jumps his Vulcan behind me, and I do the arm behind the back with a Victor and get a headshot on with the AC-20.
Nice.
I was like, Blake is with me today.
AC-20 doing what an AC-20 should.
Yeah. But we had edge. Everyone had 2 use of edge. This was not clear whether it was per game or per day. I did not like that it was not 100% clear. I'd have to go back and check. But so he used edge to reroll that. Guess what? Hit the center torso. He only has 19 health in the center torso. Still dead.
Yeah. Yeah. And AC, so yeah, it's why, like with a Vulcan, I wouldn't have bothered.
Yeah, no.
Unless it was, yeah. 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 He's gone.
Yeah.
No matter.
So at that point, I'm like, great. It's 2-1. I can be on the offensive. Continue losing initiative for the next 10 turns. I AC-20 his leg, his torso, like, the Warhammer is completely damaged. He keeps firing the SRMs. He fires the SRM-6 at my Victor. He hits it with the BBC, the SRMs, so he does the 10. I only have 12 right torso armor. 10's gone. 2's gone. He hits 2 more times in there with an SRM. He rolls to crit. There are 5 things in there. There are 2 flamers and 3 tons of AC-20 ammo.
Nice.
This man rolls 2 crits. Do you know what he rolls?
Oh, I'm sure it's the 2 flamers. Because,
it's the 2 flamers.
Yeah.
You know how much I sweated as he rolled that dice?
It's a bummer that flamers don't also explode.
Not for me. Not for me. Yeah, so Blake was definitely on my side for that one. I have to spend like another 3 turns just pushing the Warhammer down and then putting the AC-20 through the head. Like
another AC-20 through the head?
Another AC-20 through the head.
Good.
It's the only way you can kill mechs is AC-20s through the head. They're like zombies.
Yeah.
But
that's how they work.
But scoring for this is based on how much damage they did. Like, if you did damage on the armor, it's worth X much. If it damaged internal, it's worth X more. Like, it was weird.
This sounds like a whole spreadsheet thing.
They had a sheet. It was terrible. I do not recommend doing it. I did the bare minimum. Like, at this point, I'm looking at this scoring sheet, and I'm like, you know what? I don't even care anymore, man. I don't even care anymore. Anytime you have like literal arrows going, like you do this scoring and it went to the other side of the sheet, you had to add that, and then an arrow brought it back down to your side. I was like, no, you do not get to take the scoring sheet to this level. It should just be, how much damage did you do? How much armor do they have? Like that's easy. That's acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. That's how that should work.
Yeah.
On a side note, on the Hobby Progress channel, someone just totally dislocated a greyhound into tiny little pieces.
That's fine. They're legally allowed to do that.
I know. No, it's going to be cool. Like I'm excited to see what pose they put this sucker in. It just distracted me.
You're fine. I'm going to go there after this. So that's game 1. I win that, pretty much of a blowout.
Nice.
Game 2, I was the odd man out because we had like 17 people and somehow they put me as the out. I guess because I did the best. They were like, okay, you have to play the ringer. The ringer is a CDT agent named Arthur.
Was his name Arthur Garlic?
Yes.
That guy is a fantastic guy. I spent quite a bit of time chatting with him over this weekend, and every single conversation was just better than the last. I had a very pleasant time talking with this man. I look forward to meeting him again.
Arthur was a sweet angel all the way across the pond and from England. Would love to play him again. Had the absolute best time. Arthur rolls up, and this is like heavies and assaults, which is weird because I'm like, these don't die very easily. I take a 3/5 Warhammer, like with the snub-nosed PPCs, and Templar with the Ultra AC-10 and like large pulse laser or something, ER-PVC. Big guns, essentially.
Yeah.
He takes a guillotine and a gargoyle. And also
so jumping.
Yes.
So how did that go? Because I like snub-nosed PPCs a lot.
They were great. I'm gonna be honest. Arthur played great. I played great. This game was literally just who could do more damage, like, and just roll better hit locations. Nobody died until like the last 2 turns in a 2.5 hour, 2 hour game.
Well, yeah, they're heavies and assaults. Like,
I know.
That's just what happens.
I know, but it's just like that was a badly designed unit choice, and all of them were like that. All of them were like heavies and assaults with lots of armor and decent guns. Like, we decided to play on one map sheet because the weird rules, you could choose like, how many map sheets do you want? 1 or 2? Which side of the map? Okay, which deployment edge? And we just chose one map sheet to make it go faster. It did not go faster. Arthur wouldn't die. I wouldn't die. He didn't touch my Warhammer at all. He just focused on the Templar. Templar died at the very end, but the Templar had, by that point, Ultra AC'd 80% of its shots for 2 shots every turn. Like, it's the most rapid fire I've ever done.
Nice.
Guess what?
But no headshots.
No headshots. And it took me that entire game to kill 1 unit of his, and that entire game to kill 1 unit of mine.
Yeah, that's how assault and heavies work.
Yeah. So
was that a tie?
I won that one. That one was great. It just felt weird because I'm like, I'm not actually playing. We're just standing still and trying to see who can get the luckier shot. And I'm like, it's whoever rolls the better number.
Yeah. Well, you did have, like, he had the jump jet, so you had the more weapons.
We were just standing still.
Yeah. But he had the jump jets, which could have been weapons, whereas you had the weapons. So you had more, like, it makes sense that you won if you're just standing there because you had more weapons to throw down range.
That's true.
So
I had
more potential damage.
More tons of damage.
Yes.
All right. So game 3, I had met friend of the podcast, Campbell. They run a Warhammer podcast, actually, and we're doing the classic event. And they had played who I played in the classic event yesterday, that person who was, not a fun player. And I looked at them after this game, and they looked exactly like how I was yesterday, like completely dejected. And I was like, how'd that game go, Campbell? And he was like, I feel like I just played a surgeon. And I was like, that's how I felt yesterday. And I was like, you look like you need a break. Do you want to play me? And we just like have a fun time. Because at this point, I'm over it. Like, I'm like, I don't care about winning this event anymore. This is trash. I'm not taking units that I like want. I don't have models that I like. Like, it's.
Yeah, you do not like being given random or no choice over your models. That's very important to you. Like, if you were just say, hey, let's reach our hand into this box and we're playing with whatever we pull out, I don't think you would have fun.
I would have been better if it was like, hey, you drew a Phoenix Hawk and you're playing with this Phoenix Hawk, and at the end of the day, you get to take that Phoenix Hawk home. Like,
well, I'm not talking about blind box. I'm just talking about like for a tournament setting.
No, and I went into this thinking it would be more blind boxy like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what you're given, see how you can do, not here's pre-selected units and they all have weird themes. And we've messed with the gunnery and piloting to like try to edge out PV. And I'm like, but also like, I'm not using physical mechs for the representing them. Like, essentially, this was not how I would like to enjoy in a tournament. Like,
right.
if you're doing it, it needs to be well done. And this was like, hey, this is a fun event. And I'm like, cool. Well, I don't think some of these people here have gotten that message.
No, it didn't sound like it.
So I asked the TO to play Campbell, and after a while he relents, and me and Campbell get to sit down, and I just choose the stupidest, most funnest units I can, and he kind of does the same thing. I take a Kraken with all the Ultra AC2s, and I take a Vixen with the ERPPC.
Nice.
He takes a Rifleman 2C, also with Ultra AC2s, but also
weird.
But also with large pulse lasers. Like I said, they chose these mechs to be weird, to like do weird thematic battles. And I'm like, that's fine, but don't call it a tournament then. Like,
yeah, there could have been a better name, like like this shouldn't have had official first, second, or third places or anything. It should have been more like what's the word, like the for fun battles,
games.
No, there's a word for it.
You're fine.
There's a word for it.
So yeah, so I play him, and me and him just have a blast rolling. I'm kind of like doing weird fun stuff. He's doing kind of weird cool stuff. I run the Vixen at him like turn 2 after he blows like an entire right torso off, and I'm like, I'm gonna try to charge your Rifleman 2C. He's like, oh man, what you gonna do? And I fail the charge roll. So then I juke into the heavy woods next to him. And I was like, oh, look at that. I big brained my way into some heavy woods. It's like,
surprise.
Yeah, I'm failing upwards. If I win the roll, I win. If I fail the roll, I also win. And I was like, that was really cool. Then ran behind the Rifleman 2C. I put a laser and like into his back, and then he just arm flips and completely like heavy large lasers me through the cockpit. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to do stupid BattleTech stuff. That's fun.
Good. I'm glad he had fun.
Yes. My Kraken was doing like point blank ultra AC2s, like with the minimum range and double tapping. I was like, oh boy, here's my 10 shots that I have to rapid fire, which I then have to roll cluster, which then I have to roll that number of cluster dice. It's like, This is stupid. It's fun. And that was enjoyable. There was a moment where I kicked his light mech with my Kraken, stripped all the armor off. Exactly. He kicked my Kraken. We both critted out our foot actuators simultaneously. I was like, yeah. Step on
I stomped on your foot. I stomped on your foot.
Exactly. I'm like, that's the stupid stuff I like. Like, that was fun. And it was just a great game. By the end of it, he jumped behind me, hit that Ultra AC2 ammo bin, which, there's nothing more classic than finding Ultra AC2 / machine gun ammo and killing a mech with it. Kaboom, Rico.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I mean, your mechs were blown up, but you had fun. He had fun. That's a win.
Honestly, after 4 days, and I don't want to say it was decreasing levels of fun after a while. I was like, by day 4, I just needed a fun game again, and that's what it was. So,
see, that's the thing about me going as a CDT instead of doing any of the tournaments. Every single game that I was able to participate in was just fun.
That's my secret, Captain. All my games are fun.
So much fun that entire week.
Now, I'm not saying I didn't have fun, but that was my most fun. Like, I would rather have fun playing an opponent than winning a tournament. Because I had fun losing. He had fun winning. Outside of winning, like, we just had fun playing, I should say.
Yeah.
Like, the winning, losing didn't matter. I no longer was like, this format's not good. Like, this is not a good format.
It's a weird one, that open game, like that one. I still don't understand it because that wasn't my section. I was over on the boot camp and the grinder. I was not on the tournament tables, so I didn't get to look at any of this stuff, any of the setup. So I have no answers or input. They did not ask me for input either. So who knows how different it would have been.
Yeah. I mean, like, half the mechs had, like, if you didn't know every mech through like Ill Clan and all the weapons, like if you hadn't memorized the battle mech manual, you could not have played with half those mechs. Because like after the first pair, I was like, what's a heavy large laser do? If you don't know that's a +1, that shouldn't be there. Like I going into it, I did not think it would have stuff. I assumed it would just be like a game of armor combat mechs, like my light versus your light, and then my mediums against your mediums, and then assaults or heavies. But they were like,
did they have battle mech manuals scattered about at all?
Not just scattered about. I know they had a TO there to answer questions, but I think it just operated on the assumption that you knew everything. And I was like, that's not great. Don't love that. But so I finished that game out. Had fun playing Campbell. People won.
People won. Yay!
People won. I will be honest. After those games, I did not care who won that event because I was like, this is not a competitive quote unquote event. Like winning here is cool and all, but like, I don't know. It wasn't for me, and I checked out of that event pretty early on mentally. Yeah, emotionally, I should say. So at that point, I go to dinner with Campbell and Dan and some of the other friends.
I wasn't there for dinner. I was gone by then.
Yeah, you had left.
I had a plane to catch.
Had a great time. I got to meet some of my like podcasting world like heroes, and that was really awesome to me to know like your heroes are just as awesome as you think they are, if not more awesome. And it was a great way to like round out Adepticon for me. Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yep. I did have one more play of the day though. Before I left, I did get to witness a battle master up on a hill, doing what a battle master does, and a panther came up. It must have been piloted by Kyle or Leo, I guess, because he jumped up and did a DFA. So in the headcanon of this panther just jumps up and does this spinning round kick. Yeah, that's right. Just a spinning round kick and slams it into the head of the battle master, doing a successful DFA and knocking it off of the level 2 cliff.
Oh yeah.
So that sucker got kicked in the head off the level 2 cliff, fell down and crashed and exploded. And of course, the panther lands on the hill where that battle master was, silhouetted by the moon in the background. It was fantastic to watch. Much cheering, and a great way to finish out the last day of the con before I had to go find a way to find a plane, which of course got delayed, then canceled, then transferred. Then I went to RDU and my luggage went to Michigan. It was great times.
I mean, that's better than what happened to me, which was I got to the airport, my flight got delayed again, got delayed 3 more times before they just decided to cancel it. At this point, I had just sat down with Dan from Listening to Paint Dry, ordered a gin and tonic, and was taking my first sip when the airlines went to, Gray Monday, essentially, or started shutting down. I hop in the customer service line. I'm in there for like 30, 45 minutes. They get to me and they're like, as soon as I get up to the counter, the email is like, hey, you've been transferred. And I was like, well, now you tell me. I could have finished my drink.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had to spend like 8 extra hours in the airports because I had a direct flight, but no, I had to wait half the day in O'Hare, fly to DC, wait the other half of the night there, and then finally come home the next morning.
Yeah, that's gross.
That was very gross. But all of my luggage arrived with me.
Mine didn't.
Oh.
Yeah. Eventually I got it all. So I now have everything that I left Adepticon with.
That's good. What's your favorite thing you left Adepticon with?
Ooh, wow. I mean, the book that has my name in it, my pilot, that's my favorite thing.
You had that in PDF form already.
Yeah, I don't care. This is a physical copy of it. I also like the dog tags that I made that went with that pilot. So they got all his pilot information on there. I like that a lot. Caitlin really likes her Keith Urban Mech to go with her Carl Urban Mech.
Oh my god.
That was fantastic. I like my little Cauldron Born that I painted while I was there. No, I just had a bunch of stuff that I enjoyed. Yeah,
that's awesome. For me, it might be all the dice, because there's nothing more I love than collecting dice from friends and friends of the show. So I got like a whole bunch of new paired with logos on the 6s, so I can just. Yep. I'm so much closer to rolling the LB20.
Yeah. No, I got pairs. my paint dry, my listening to paint dry dice and my Thunderhead dice, in like one or two more sets, but those were my favorites.
No. If you could do something differently for Adepticon, what would it be and why?
Well, I mean, obviously it's I would love to have some say in the BTCC and actually make it a format to be worthy of the name format. Other than that, like the whole anything that I could change, I have nothing. I have no control over, because it would be the BTCC. It would be getting Catalyst to bring more stock of everything, because like they needed more. They needed to go bigger. But other than that, like the Catalyst demo team presence there, I thought went super, super well. I have never had any questions about where I was supposed to be or what I was supposed to be doing. And when I got there, I had all the stuff that I needed for it. And all I left with was fantastic stories. I did not have a single bad moment the entire time I was there until I tried to fly home.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
For me, I would probably drop one of the events, just no matter what, because I did not have any time besides when I killed my opponent so fast that I got time to walk through the vendor hall, which was next to the event. Like,
yeah, it's in the same
one
hall.
Long table, same room. Never got a chance besides, because it was either get food, go bathroom, or keep rolling. And yeah. I was like, I would like to look at the cool models and gaming aids, please.
Right. And I was done by 3 p.m. every day, so I had plenty of time to go look around.
Must be nice.
It was nice. It was very nice. It was.
Yeah, because the vendor hall was only open from like 10 to like 5 or 4.
I got to go play with the giant Irby. Did you even go out to go and say hi to the inflatable Irby?
Yeah, I watched them inflate it up.
Yeah, but did you play with it? I got to play with it. It was fun.
I watched Randall yelling at CDT people to like, no, don't do that, do this, and like hands throwing up in frustration as they drag it out of a literal like U-Haul van.
Nice.
That was hilarious. I'm pretty sure I have pictures of that actually.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Any other thoughts or comments or things like what I'm doing right now?
No, I mean, I would definitely go back to Adepticon. Maybe not every single year, but this feels like a definitely like a every other year or every third year type of thing. I can't mix this with another big convention though.
This was the big one.
Yeah. Well, this is the big one for me for this year for sure. But like I couldn't do this and Gen Con. Like there's no way.
No.
It would definitely be a one or the other type of thing. But I had so much fun there. I would definitely 100% do that again.
And here's where here's where Josh has to, differ. So I'm going to compare this to other events I've gone to. The pure BattleTech one being Southern Assault. The majority of what I did being BattleTech at Nova, but also, regular vendor event thing.
Yeah, but Nova was so small compared to this.
And then to Adepticon. And while I had fun at Adepticon, I want to say it was not actually playing BattleTech. It was more meeting people, hanging out with people, because there were just more people there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I had more fun playing BattleTech at like Southern Assault and Nova, where I didn't feel as rushed. I felt like the TOs had more control over what was going on. Like just because it was a much more intimate experience, it was more like tailored for you.
Right.
Rather than just like, here's a boilerplate format. And it's like, hey guys, this doesn't really work. And they're like, we know. It's like,
right.
Don't tell me
they
that.
didn't have classic events at either Southern Assault or Nova.
No, but I mean, while we are a BattleTech Classic focused podcast, I can have fun playing BattleTech.
No, I mean,
yeah.
I think that if they had tried to run the classic events at either of those places, it also would have gone poorly at this stage. That's my point.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could still just do like a intro tech kill each other event, and I would have been relatively okay with that. I feel like I want to complain about this, and it's because I do. I was completely taken aback at how little prize support there was for the BattleTech events at all. Like, I mean, all.
I don't even know who was in charge of prize support at all. Like, was that the responsibility of the tournaments changed hands several times? So I don't know if anyone had a chance to get to that point. I mean, like I'm completely in the dark of how that process went. So it's crazy.
I got prizes from the WolfNet group for winning that, but those were all provided by WolfNet themselves, not CDT. So all of the prizes that I got, none of them came from CDT. I know for the first two events they passed out participation. Here's a salvage box, and that's just. But then they ran out. So like the other events, all the classic events did not have anything because they ran out. So they didn't even reserve salvage boxes for events. They were just giving them out, and then they didn't have them. So only half the events actually got a participation prize at all.
Yeah, I felt that that the Catalyst team there was more focused on the grinder, which is their big thing. Like by far, like every time an event finished up and they could clear off that table, they immediately set up another grinder table, which immediately filled up.
Yeah.
So like the grinder is their convention game, and they know that. This whole tournament thing is just too new, and they don't know who's in charge. Therefore, there's no talking. And that's what I'm saying. Until there's more of that, there's not going to be the right kind of support. They need to fix that. And if they don't, then tournament play is not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. So that's when I'm like, I don't want to say I do it for the prizes, but like awards and medals are cool. But I'm a swag person. Like I like to take things home. Like this is what I got from Nova, or this is what I got from Southern Assault. This is what I got from my local tournament. Like, where's like what physical thing am I taking away?
You got your little gear and your
pistol. But I had to win that. Like,
yeah, you had to win that. That's how that works.
I had to win that. But that is also provided by Adepticon, not CDT. Yeah. So it's like, okay. And if I'm going for swag, which is one of my, like, that's my happy motivator. That's my joy. Like I won a physical product or whatever. I was extremely disappointed for this being the Adepticon launch party for BattleTech that there was no BattleTech real prizes or anything. I came away from Southern Assault with a like bag full. Like, thanks for coming and playing in our event. I came away from Nova with here's a bag full, or like everyone who played at Nova got something, whether it be a force pack, lance pack, dice, whatever.
But that wasn't from Catalyst. That was from whoever hosted it.
And what
I'm saying is that Catalyst is not a tournament group. They don't know anything about running tournaments. They are not organized for tournaments. So if you're looking for them for the tournament experience, you're going to be disappointed for a long time.
And this is when I say
they're not wired for it.
And this is when I say I will probably never do another Catalyst organized event just because of that. Like I did not see any indicators besides whether it be the format, prize support, TO involvement / excitement / they are happy to run this from anything. Like I got zero enjoyment that I will ever do a Catalyst supported event ever again.
Well, I don't think you've done a Catalyst supported event yet.
What was this then?
Obviously, Catalyst isn't giving it enough support, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, they haven't gotten there yet. They don't know how to support their tournaments yet.
Yeah. So but as someone who paid to get into the events, I don't think I got my money's worth. And looking back, I probably would have not done all four of them for an enjoyment purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you gave yourself no time to actually go to the con.
Yeah.
You just paid to compete, and that's it.
Yeah. And have gotten better returns from just competing from other events.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts? Anything we want to talk about now?
Not me. I mean, eventually we'll do a Kickstarter podcast. But other than that, I mean, we've been talking for a while.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Denham. Thanks for going to Adepticon with me / 2 tables away from me.
Woo, I was there in spirit. I mean, physically, just way over there.
I'd like to thank all the patrons that have supported us, the show, and provided us the funds to go to Adepticon. Cataphract 40 with the Nightstar 9J. John, Aron Skyfox, Sergeant, Andrew Weisner, Duncan Rhodes, Byzantine Falcon, Will Donta, Douglas McAuliffe, Chad Storm Evans, piloting the Hatchetman 8S, Rex Redneck Rawhide, piloting Orion-VA, Eric Smailys, Danny Kyro, Loss, piloting the Flashman 8K, Jordan Cooper, Steve Maisel, average the Crab 27 pilot, Chris Jesty, Pribanick with Hammerhead, Thomas Klinkhammer, piloting a Longbow 13C, Sam Desert Dream 2 Burling, John Haynes, Stewart Hughes, Travis Gist, Uncharismatic Wizard, Bob Aarons, Matt LeBaron, Donald Looker, Mitch Minotaur Grant, piloting a Thunderbolt 5SE, Harris from Ramshackle, piloting a Cataphract 4L, Metal Ed, John Garner, Richard, KZ, David, Zach Torrance, Metal Zarek, piloting a Blackhawk H, Lawrence Franchini, Tom Bovey, Janine Nichols, Tim Kleintrott, Scott Bomer, David Rains, Dan A., Carl Zachary, David Sleeton, Steve Maisel, Pietor, J. Allen Hammer, Chris Montgomery, Ben Jumper, Blunderdome, and Chad A. Linema. Our newest patrons, Jeff Campbell, Jacob Haas, Arthur Garlick, and Aaron Rosselhog forever. I'd like to thank everyone that I got to meet for the amazing time hanging out and talking with. You guys really made Adepticon a great event and worth going to. BattleTech may be awesome, but it's the awesome people like you that keep it worth playing. Catch us next time where we do break down the Kickstarter and getting the biggest bang for your C-bills. Until then, we are the Mechbay Podcast, and remember, BattleTech is easy if you only roll 12s.